Let's call the regular City Council meeting to order. And let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Fruin?
Here.
Councilmember Mohan?
Here.
Councilmember Wong?
Here.
Vice Mayor Moore?
Here.
Mayor Chow?
Here. Do we have any closed session report?
We have no closed session report today.
Thank you. And we have one ceremonial item that is an annual report and the proclamation for the West Valley Community Service and the proclamation to recognize their 51 years of dedicated community service. I believe we have a presentation.
Yes, Mayor, we have our Executive Director of West Valley Community Services, Sujatha Venkatraman, is here to provide a presentation.
Oh, there. Yes, please.
Thank you so much. My name is Sujatha Venkatraman, and I'm the Executive Director of West Valley Community Services, an agency that was founded in Cupertino and serving Cupertino for 51 years. Our mission is to unite the community to fight hunger and homelessness. If you want to keep going through the slides. Yes. Up to clients. And we have been serving the extremely low-income clients in our West Valley cities that include Cupertino. Our main services includes a choice market. So we want to keep going down this slide. That's good. Thank you. So as you see, our clients are multicultural, multilingual, single adults, couples, families, youth, domestic violence survivor, disabled, homeless, the unhoused individual. We serve clients who are in the 275 percentile of federal poverty level. That means someone making $96,000, a family of 4, would qualify for our services. And like I mentioned, next slide please, our services includes a food shopping, so weekly grocery pickup, food delivery, rental assistance, housing referral and support, affordable housing, family support, homeless services, case management and system navigation, information and referral, education and advocacy, and employment and financial assistance referral. Next slide please. Why is our intervention different from other organizations? We believe in the dignity of the client, so our market, our grocery assistance program, is a choice. It's not a pantry, we call it a market. And you'll see a picture, one of our community members is getting food and he's doing it on his own with a shopping cart. The food access is looked at from the lens of nutritional meal. It's not a bag of food, but it's how you can make meals out of it. It's a one-stop shop approach. So when someone comes to us, we try to connect them to all the community resources available, including what is available in Cupertino and other city and county-wide services. We have lived experience conversation. We have a service learning opportunity, so we encourage interns, students who want to go into public service or social services to be part of that. That includes our clients and their children as well. And we are heavily on advocacy around hunger and homelessness. Next slide, please. And these are numbers. I'm not going to go over that, but I will just highlight the one main number. 1 million meals were provided through our food operation, and we distributed about 1 million in financial assistance. That means that the folks who got these assistance, we were able to prevent homelessness. Next slide, please. This is kind of a more reflective of Cupertino numbers. This is all new clients served during that fiscal year. And we had about 304 new individuals who accessed our services. And we had, in total, about 107 households who received rental assistance. And we were able to prevent eviction and homelessness. The rental assistance demand from Cupertino is primarily for support of small businesses and seniors on fixed income. So we are primarily serving folks who have jobs or who are on fixed income. This is kind of an approach, and I'll go very quickly on that. Our first approach is crisis intervention. So we are trying to make sure that a client who comes to us has food and has the basic referral to be stable. Then we move on to short-term intervention with case management. There we are trying to see housing stability, financial stability, a lot of coaching and case management goes into that. Long-term stability is self-sufficiency, where someone does not need our services, and that happens with making sure that they have been referred to affordable housing, they have been provided resources or support for financial coaching, employment, and all of the wraparound service, and that's what leads to self-sufficiency. Next slide, please. So we have developed a theory of change, and I'm not going to go over that. It talks about that our program components, which includes our food market, and we also have a mobile market that goes to De Anza College in Cupertino area. The basic needs support that we provide, the eviction prevention, the homelessness supportive services, and the community access to resources and education. This is our, what we call as our safety net services, results in the following outcome: food security, financial security, and housing security. And the amount and the dosage, what we call is how many times a client comes to us, where they are in their crisis level, determines how fast we can move them towards self-sufficiency. Our goal is that everybody is thriving in our community, and when they are connected to us on the full scope service, we make sure that they are moving from one level of their self-sufficiency to other. So crisis to stability, stability to self-sufficiency. Next slide, please. Unfortunately, we had someone who lives in Cupertino, and she's been a recipient of our services, but she sprained her ankle and cannot come here. So I'm going to quickly read one of this story, and I'm going to read about Cindy. Cindy is a 71-year-old senior living in Cupertino. Cindy came to us requesting for financial assistance because she had a back due rent, and you see that she had many months behind that. She reported that she hadn't paid rent because her identity was stolen and someone had closed her bank account. She had a 3-day notice, and she was very stressed out. She didn't have anybody supporting her. West Valley Community Services was able to help her with back due rent. The case manager connected with Cindy, provided her with a DMV voucher that gave her her identity because she had lost everything. And the case manager noticed that several fees and charges were there on our bank account. So we did a consolidation, helped her connect with a financial person, and we were able to support that. So this is kind of the wraparound service that we offer. And here are some pictures to quickly give you a representation of what we do. And I know that many of you in the council have come to our agency and seen our services. So thank you for doing that. Here's how our market is set up. It's like a store. This is a picture of our parket market that is at De Anza College. Next slide, please. And these are kind of our supportive services that we offer. Our back to school program that happens in August. We fundraise and we get kids to shop at Old Navy and get backpack and school supply. This is our Gift of Hope program, which City of Cupertino supports us. This is more like helping the families during the holiday. These are the resource fair that we offer. We have a pet clinic that comes in, and you see hair cutting for our unhoused and even our housed clients, and also resources that they can get connected to. This is kind of our grocery rescue program, where we go out in the community and try to rescue fruits, vegetables, and other produce that may go into the landfill. volunteerism. We offer programs for families with children called Seeds of Compassion. You can come and clean the pantry on Saturday. We have a Cake for Kids program so that our kids can enjoy their birthday. So volunteers make, this is through Cake for Kids, an organization, but we do get our volunteers to support that. And also, like you see, stocking the market, doing the food drive, all that happens. And this is where the residents of Cupertino can help us. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate. So we have a proclamation for you. So I've been giving proclamation every month to organizations that had served Cupertino continuously and consistently. And I find out that Cupertino has never issued a proclamation officially to West Valley Service. So I offered to make, so we today have a proclamation to thank you and all your volunteers for your service. And this is really essential service for many people in need. Thank you. So we'll just quickly take a photo. Yeah, I won't have time to read all this, but I think your presentation covered it. This is in the agenda packet too. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next, do we have postponement of orders of the day? We don't have any.
No, Mayor.
Yeah, okay. Next, oral communication, City Clerk, could you start that?
Yes, Mayor. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the council on any matter within the jurisdiction of the council and not on the agenda for discussion. The total time for oral communications will ordinarily be limited to 1 hour. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes. As necessary, the chair may further limit the time allowed to individual speakers or reschedule remaining comments to the end of the meeting on a first-come, first-heard basis, with priority given to students. In most cases, state law will prohibit the council from discussing or making any decisions with respect to a matter not listed on the agenda. A council member may, however, briefly respond to statements made or questions posed by speakers. A council member may also ask a question for clarification, provide a reference for factual information, request staff to report back concerning a matter, or request that an item be added to a future city council agenda in response to public comment. Mayor, I have in front of me a group request of 5 people for up to 10 minutes. I also have 13 requests to speak individually, which is 39 minutes, so that brings us to about 49 minutes.
How many online so far?
There are 3.
So 49 minutes is including
And
the online?
I see 3
One.
more. Yes. Yes,
Okay.
that includes online. So we have.
Okay. Sounds like we might need an hour, and we do have a packed agenda, so let's do 30 minutes now, and then the rest can speak after all the action items. And please no applause, so we can save time, and also it's equal opportunity for everyone. And I'd like all the council members to please make notes of any question or comments that you want to refer to the staff, so we can make that at the end of all the comments. So I won't limit time. I learned that people don't like it, but please if you can reduce your time, make your point quickly, then more people would be able to talk in the first 30 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. And just to be clear, so we will hear 30 minutes now, and then the remainder of the comments will be heard after item 10, which is after the action calendar.
Yeah.
Okay. We will begin with the group request. Pamela Hershey, Dennis Park, Chan Wang, Debbie Chesson, and Lisa Warren. Welcome. And Dennis, I understand you have a presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Chow.
So I'm sorry to interrupt. Video, would you please start the timer for 10 minutes?
Good evening, Mayor Chow, the council members, city staff. I'm Pamela Hershey, a longtime Cupertino resident, and spoken many times here at City Council. Today I'm here with Dennis Park, another neighbor here in our Portal area. And we have a presentation regarding preserving the sound wall through our neighborhood. Dennis will start it at this time.
So the goal of this 10-minute presentation is to basically we want to supplement the petition we submitted today. The petition is about preserving the sound wall in the North Portal neighborhood. So I am not going to go over line by line of this petition. I kindly ask you to read the petition itself. And in this presentation, I want to go over that is not presented in the petition itself, which is the statistics and the background of this petition, and some supporting facts that is better presented more interactively rather than on the paper. So this is the petition statistics. So in total, 525 residents has signed this petition, and they are coming from 297 houses, most from the North Portal neighborhoods. And this is signed by 100% in-person handwritten signatures from the signature booth we have set up over 2 weekends. And
Dennis, I apologize. Mayor, can we request that the other 3 individuals in this group appear at the podium?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's good. Thank you for that.
Thank you. And also, all the signatures are coming from adults 18 years or older. So this is taking a majority of the North Portal neighborhood, as you can see on the map. The red dots is the houses of at least 1 signatures from adults. So just to go over very briefly about the sound wall. So it was built in 1974, and between the North Portal neighborhoods and the Valcomo, which is facing to the east, and it was mandated by the development agreement at that time, and it's separating the North Portal districts and the commercial districts over 50 years. And historically, there were many attempts to open it whenever there was a new development were established on the site of Valcomo. So as you all know, there are new develops will be take place in this area. There are 2 projects. One is Wolf Road housing projects, and the other is the Rise. And just to go over kind of the facts of these 2 projects, the Rise will house more than 2,700 residential units in this area, and the Wolf Road housing will house between 250 and 300 residential units. So in total, we are looking at more than 3,000 residential units at these locations. So just to put it into more context, like this is more than about 10 times of the household of the North Portal neighborhood, which is taking similar geographical area next to it. So that is, and also to put it in an even broader context, if you compare with the current Cupertino populations, according to the Wikipedia, at 2023 is 57,285. And if this is, with this 300 residential units, if there are on average 3 people, if the size of the households is on average 3, that is 9,000. If it is 4, it's 12,000. And that actually amounts to 16 or 21% of the entire Cupertino population. So this is kind of the scale we are looking at in these locations. And in addition to that, there will be 1.9 million square feet of the office space in this area, and more than 200,000 square feet of the retail space. So the reason why I'm stating this, which we all of us will probably know, is because this is unprecedented density in terms of the populations and the retail spaces and the office space altogether. And this is what the North Polar residents is fundamentally most concerned about, and all of the issues that is fundamentally rooted at the fact that we are looking at the very high density development in this area. So one thing that I want to make clear is in this petition, we are not opposed to these housing projects. So majority of the neighbors who signed this petition recognize the housing crisis is real, and home price and rent is almost skyrocketing at this moment. And this actually this harms the diversity, which is our core value in terms of the age and ethnicity and income levels. So, and moreover, our teachers deserves better housing, and we are all kind of recognize these are the most imminent issues of the cities and the larger in the larger community of Santa Clara County. And most of the neighborhood thinks that we must find these solutions together. So this together is not only North Portal neighborhoods, it's the Cupertino City and county, and also the future tenants of this 2 projects and the city altogether. So we just wanted to make sure that this is not part of our petitions. But given the unprecedented scale of these projects, the current plan of the projects, and the current plan of the projects, most of the neighbors in our neighborhoods actually concerned that this small change can have a significant impact on our neighborhood. So at this point, I will hand over to Pam to present it.
Hello, I'm doing the key concerns, and we're talking about traffic and safety. As you can see the video, it's actually playing. This is submitted by someone on the corner of Portal and Merritt. They have a lot of video every day this happens. So the increased cut-through traffic, whether by vehicles, bicycles, pedestrians, poses significant safety risk, particularly to children and seniors. The surrounding streets were not designed to absorb additional volume of traffic, and an open sound wall would exacerbate these hazards. We'll go on. Existing alternative connectivity options. As you can see on the map up above, I'm going to make sure it's showing, the Tamian Inu trailhead is in Class 4 bike lane allows Stevens Creek Boulevard already provide a safer designated routes for pedestrians and bicycles. You can see up on the screen and on your screen that they've already have the on Stevens Creek the barriers for the bikers. So that's an access on Stevens Creek Road. And on the map you can see that the trailhead entrance there's already an opening on the Wolf Housing Project, making it more convenient than going through the neighborhood. This is where they're considering where the X is there. The key concerns, parking and overflow concerns, Wolf Road Housing and the RISE projects lack significant parking. to accommodate their own residents, workers, and visitors. Without proper enforcement of Cupertino's municipal code regarding zoning buffers, our neighborhood will face unmanageable parking overflow. They have less than one parking stall per household. The project leaders expect tenants to use public transportation. Other key concerns: preservation of neighborhood character and R1 zoning. Our community is zoned R1 to ensure privacy, compatibility, and low-intensity residential setting. Security and privacy. Unlike enclosed apartment complexes, our neighborhood relies on limited access points for safety and privacy. The sound wall protection and established covenant. The sound wall exists due to a long-standing covenant designed to mitigate noise and traffic impacts from the adjacent high-density developments. We ask the city to reject any proposal to open the sound wall and instead explore alternative solutions that support connectivity without compromising neighborhood safety and character. We request formal documentation and enforcement of the long-standing covenant preserving the wall. Thank you.
Next, we have Jennifer Griffin, followed by Jaria Jaug, followed by Munimari Patla. Welcome, Jennifer.
Good evening, City Council. In the words of the previous group, I really am not, opening up the wall is not a good plan for multiple reasons. This neighborhood was under threat in 2005 when the previous owners of Valco attempted to open up the wall to have access to the shopping center. This was not fair. They went through so many things. This went on for years. And it just gets to the point where it gets old. Leave the neighborhood alone. There are two issues here. The county Wolf Road housing, perimeter road housing, whatever we're calling it, is very, very important. So is the Rise, Valco, etc. I say, rather than taking the wall down, use the existing access roads to the mall. This was perimeter road. Beautiful road that goes all the way around the property. When I was working at Tandem, we used to walk that route every lunchtime. It goes from Stevens Creek all the way around to Valco Parkway. West Perimeter Road is a complete disgrace, disaster. If anyone was going to be living at the, I'm going to call it Wolf Road housing, they would probably be walking down this road to try to get to Stevens Creek to catch a bus. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with VTA, there's no buses, but that's what I would do. But if I was walking down there by myself, I have to go past the scary, empty dirt lot that is Valco the Rise. It's not safe. And I think that it's very, very important that we look ahead at who is going to be living in this location and at the Rise. The Rise was built or lobbied as a separate neighborhood. Let it be a separate neighborhood. The Wolf Road housing is part of their neighborhood. The Portal neighborhood is their neighborhood. I think we have a lot of issues here where we're trying to have the wall taken down to provide convenient access and parking for one neighborhood into another. It's not fair. Right now, the Wolf Road project does not have enough parking. They're taking over another neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next, we have Jaria Jog, followed by Munimari Patla, followed by Sonali Padigankar. Welcome, Jaria.
Thank you. Hello, Mayor Chow, Vice Mayor Moore, and honorable city council members. My name is Jariah Haug. It's like Mariah, but with a J. And I am the primary coordinator for the Build the Future campaign. And Build the Future is actually a campaign filled with a bunch of different organizations advocating for affordable childcare and helping raise the wages for our childcare providers. And so affordable childcare is actually a local issue. Affordable childcare bolsters the local economy by providing families the opportunity to pursue their career goals while also caring for their children. Cupertino alone has almost 6,000 children under the age of 9 years old, meaning that there are thousands of families in need of childcare. Families should not have to choose between their careers and giving their children the care that they need. And so we're here tonight just to give you some information about the importance of childcare and what it means for a city to invest in childcare. And we're requesting that a resolution be passed in the future for the city of Cupertino to affirm their support for affordable childcare and our childcare providers. And we have passed this resolution in 12 other cities so far. It'll be 13 after April 1st. The town of Montesereno is passing it on April 1st. And so we really want to work with you and also your staff to draft this resolution. And this resolution can be a longer conversation about how the city is supporting our working families and our children. And thank you so much. I would love to meet with you all afterwards. I left my email on the card or on the speaker card. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Jariah. Next, we have Muni Maripatla, followed by Sonali Padgankar, followed by Sai Maila Rampu. Welcome, Muni.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and the council members. My name is Muni Maripatla, a long-time resident of Cupertino. I serve on the Bike Ped Commission, but I'm here representing myself as a resident. I want to bring to your attention some pressing issues that are affecting quality of life in our city. I want to make sure my tax dollars are going to addressing these issues instead of some old pet projects of certain council members, illegal and unregistered lobbying groups, and staff members. Homeless encampments. There is a homeless person encamped on the pedestrian sidewalk at McClellan and Dianza Junction. This person is illegally blocking walkway for pedestrians and elderly on the wheelchairs since Jan 15th. I spoke about it in the last council meeting, but I don't think anything has been done. I don't want to see our city becoming a capital of homeless encampments. Please pass a law like Fremont did and enforce it. If you have staff members that can't do it, just replace them. You will find plenty of capable government employees impacted by federal government job reductions. RV parking. Our streets are becoming RV parking lots, and the previous council didn't do anything about it for years. Please put this on agenda to pass a strict RV encampment laws and enforce it. If the staff say they already have, laws and enforcing it, they're just lying to you. Just replace them, right? So the next topic, burglaries. In last 1 week alone, I know of 5 home break-ins in my friend circle. There could be more that I don't know about, but I know at least 5. I have videos for at least 2 of them. Please increase the law enforcement budget and make our city safe for our citizens. We pay taxes. When I see so many crimes and the sheriff's office shows a graph in your state of the city address, declining crime, my conclusion is that our city has normalized home burglaries, like the retail theft has become normal in California. Please don't accept that. Separated bike lanes. Please stop wasting money on these projects as they are creating more problems than solving. I witnessed a road rage incident in front of my home between a biker and a car because the biker was using the car lane instead of the separated bike lane. Why? There is so much debris in the bike lane that's not cleaned. No one wants to use it. I have a friend who bikes from Palo Alto to Saratoga on every weekend to visit his friends. He said he avoids McClellan Road because of concrete barriers. He uses Linda Vista, Bub, Rainbow, and Stelling to go there. Please stop wasting money on these concrete barriers and solve the problems that matters to citizens. I beg you to focus on these urgent quality of life issues instead of wasting money on pet projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Muni. Next, we have Sonali Padgankar, Sai Mailava Rampu,
Mayor.
and Say.
Let's hold all the comments, questions to the end.
This is just a very quick one to the city manager.
Let's hold to the end. Could we do that?
If that's your pleasure.
Is it related to the comment or
Yes,
the
yes, it
procedure?
is, and I think it
To the
might actually
comment, let's
offer
hold
the-
it till the end.
If you so choose.
Thank you.
So welcome, Sonali.
I'm going to be yielding their time, but I'm going to probably talk for 4 minutes. So.
I'm sorry, you're ceding your time, or you're consolidating your time. Okay,
Yes.
so, okay, and you are Sai.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, and then is Sayali there as well?
Of course, she
okay.
also. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. All right, Mayor, they're consolidating their time for up to 6 minutes. Yes. Okay.
Start. Okay. Hello, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council members. My name is Sonali Padgaonkar, and I have been a proud Cupertino resident since 2010. On March 8, 2025, my family and I came home to find that we had been burglarized. This event has caused a lot of stress for my family. However, this burglary is not a singular event, but rather a common occurrence. Recently, even our elderly people are targeted. Through discussions with community members, friends, and officials, I have learned of so many who have gone through the same issues in recent time. On the same day, my house was burglarized. Another house faced the same fate near Kennedy Middle School. On my street alone, and I live on Rainbow Drive, which is a very busy street, multiple neighbors have already been through this ordeal with no sight of justice after years of these unfortunate events. Many of my friends who are not local are consistently shocked at the negligence and lack of safety in our area. Frankly, I am also shocked, but more than anything, I am disappointed and angry. Some people say Asians are easy targets as we tend to keep gold in our house. So is it a given to live in terror now? In our case, there are two scenarios. Either we were chosen at random or they had been watching us, but both of which are terrifying to think about. I keep thinking that if the children had been home and didn't hear them knocking on the door, the outcome could have been much worse. So basically, the people came, they knocked, and since nobody was at home, some other person came and invaded our house. I feel as though my city has failed me. I know you cannot answer my questions right now, but however, I'll be sending an email containing all the video evidence of the crime, and I would appreciate your response in 3 to 4 days. Now I want to propose some ideas. I hear that Cupertino borrows the police staff from San Jose and does not have their own team. And I don't know if it is true. Is that true? What is our budget and where is the information available for the public to access? Is there a way in which we can own our own police department so that our issues are given more time and attention? I also strongly suggest that we should create a committee with one police officer, one public safety commissioner, one city council member, and a citizen. The committee provide detailed report of current crime data as an agenda item at the start of every council meeting. So we should be following up on what is going on and what is the progress that is being made about these robberies. We also need to look at the data for last 15 years of police work to determine the sources and manpower needed to solve these cases. Along with the data, lack of tools or what could have been done better. Following the break-in at my house, I was able to provide police with multiple videos of the robbers as well as information to easily track some of the items immediately. The detective who was assigned to my case called me and contacted me after a few days. I know 20 burglaries where residents still do not know what happened with their case and were simply left unresolved. The insurance that people say that, oh, you will get your money back from insurance, but insurance cannot always be solution to the problem as we cannot put price on solace and sense of security. I understand that police face their own daily issues as they have a lot of things on their plate and might not have proper tools that they need. And this was actually what they told us. However, I demand City Council to talk to Congressman Mr. Ahan and Congressman Khanna to see how Bay Area tech giants can help us with the current technologies. It's basically getting data and going through the videos faster. I'm also requesting Councilman Wang to help us with this. I want to see Cupertino as a safe and beautiful community. It was when I first settled in. I want future generations to be protected going forward, and I'm hoping through good work together as a community, we could achieve this goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonali. Next, we have Susanna Zaraski, Brooke Ezett, and Kelly. Though I don't know if we'll have time to get to Kelly. Susanna, welcome.
Hi. I live in the Rancho Rinconada neighborhood. I've been there since 1989 with my family, and I'm here to ask you to put up signs in all public parks and on the trail, the Lawrence Creek Trail, telling dog owners that there's a $100 to $500 fee for every citation they get for off-leash dogs. We need this sign because there are some very irresponsible dog owners who think that their dogs are angelic extensions of themselves who will never, ever bite anybody or jump in front of a car. But I have to tell you, that's not true. If you've ever had iodine put into an open wound caused by a dog, you will understand why I find this to be alarming. I was bitten by a dog, a little Chihuahua, not here in Cupertino, and I had to take the dog owners to court to get them to pay for my medical bills. Some people have to have plastic surgery because of dog bites. Some people die. Some people get rabies. I don't think you want that to happen in Cupertino. I've also had a car accident because of an off-leash dog. And let me tell you, all these dog owners tell me, I never thought my dog would ever jump out onto the street, but it happens. And when I walk in my neighborhood, there's somebody who I've told, you know, it's illegal, you have to put your dog on a leash. He completely avoids me. Along the Lawrence Creek Trail, there are people who bring multiple dogs and let them run. There are children there. There are people in wheelchairs, all sorts of people who could be hurt by those dogs. I have told one of those dog owners, he says, no, my dogs are friendly. We need signs so that dog owners know that there's a price to pay for this irresponsibility. And these signs also have to have the phone number for the non-emergency line for the sheriff's department, so other people like me will have the phone number and can call directly to the police and call the police to come and give these people citations. These signs are needed as a deterrent to keep these irresponsible dog owners from just letting their dogs be out in the wild. And maybe this could be a moneymaker also for the city by collecting these fines due to these citations. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. And next we have Brooke Ezett. Or I'm sorry, Susanna. Thank you, Susanna. Next we have Brooke Ezett. Welcome, Brooke.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm here for a couple of asks from the City Council. First of all, we had a $30 million deficit last year, according to what was said in the San Jose Spotlight. We now have a surplus. We had approximately $40 million that was in a non-interest-bearing account. We live in a different age now. We're not getting money from Apple. And given the clown show that's going on in Washington, we'll probably not be getting federal funds. So I think we need to tighten ourselves, tighten our budget, and possibly bring in a forensic accountant firm to see how much money we actually have, because we can't plan for tomorrow if we don't know how much cash we have today. Secondly, I would like to ask the council if you would possibly lower the threshold for outside contracts, dollar amount wise. Right now it stands, I think, at something like 170. If we could lower it down to 50,000, because we live in a different age. The cavalry is not going to come in and save us. We need to save ourselves, and we need to be more cognizant of how our spending is. And finally, the other ask I have goes into what what Mooney suggested, which is hiring federal employees. There's an awful lot of federal employees that are illegally being laid off. A lot of them have skill sets that would be good for the city. For example, with logistics, if you hire a vet, the planes weren't falling out of the air when Mayor Pete was heading transportation. So they have some unique skill sets that we could possibly use. And then finally, I noticed a resident going through the blue card box, shuffling the things to get themselves a better placement. I hope that they realize that they're not more important than everybody else, that they'll get their turn to speak, and it was sort of tacky. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. Mayor, this may be a good time to pause. We've had 29 minutes and 20 seconds that have elapsed.
So how many in person still?
6, which is 18 minutes.
Okay. And how many online?
There are 3 online, so that would take us to 27 minutes.
I'm thinking maybe we take the 3 online and then the rest of the in-person would go after item 10. What does a council member think?
It's your prerogative.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. And let's take the 3 people online.
Okay, call-in user 1, San R and Tessa Parrish. Welcome, call-in user 1. Video, would please start the timer. Welcome, call-in user 1. I see you have unmuted yourself. We're having, it looks like they're having some technical issues, so we'll move to San R. Welcome, Sam.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes. I'm going to mute San. Just one moment. Yes.
Hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hi. Okay. Hi, councils and the guests, residents, and just a couple of things quickly. The first, I saw this presentation about community, about I think the residents of the legal council, and I read it. There was one time there. No one concern is about the residents. First, just like people in the United States, first you have.
Excuse me. Would you possibly be able to speak louder? We're having difficulty hearing you.
Okay, so 2 points I try to make. One is about the ones on the committee about basically residents see the committee legal committee in the city, and which I feel it's good practice with like a 3-branch United States, so they have can watch each other, and typically this city has quite a bit going on right now, so we want the citizens, residents input. And one comment I saw was the residents have a little bit concerns about you think about some cost of it, and I'm part of the actually long-term residents, and it will go through the audio of the property and the belonging was the handily taken away. Although this kind of committee could, I don't know how much can help because it went kind of Supreme Court, and eventually again unhandily actually killed. But despite this experience, I feel like I can actually help. I can actually spend my own time kind of help the residents. So if that would be part of the to reduce if it was consider some cost. So I just want to mention that. And the second point is for the past couple years, actually I'm part of the Huang family. We request a meeting with the city. We want to have as a part of the is also the retaliation and overreach. They also took off the rights about any other matter not related, which is never really heard for any other things like this to deal with the local government agency and overreach. So we want to see what the city on that, and it's part of the due process and the constitution right. We should have a meeting with the city.
Thank you. That is your time. Next, we have San R, followed by Tessa Parrish. Welcome, San.
Good evening, Mayor Chow. I'm speaking on behalf of myself only as a resident today. I'm speaking on behalf of my many friends at McClellan Terrace, which is a community of 94 multi-unit apartment homes on McClellan Road. McClellan Terrace is a community that has existed amongst us for a long, long time and has been the home for many, many generations of students and families that went to Lincoln, Kennedy Middle, and Monta Vista High. For years and years and decades, parents and children were able to live close to schools, walk to schools, and experienced Cupertino as their children grew up in our schools. And in a dramatic move, FHDA has announced that they are acquiring McClellan Terrace, and they're going to evict these families that are parents with students in Lincoln, Monta Vista, Kennedy, Perea, and maybe other schools. And those will be replaced by non-residents that will move in from other areas that will be DEANZA students. Why is a DEANZA student more important than a CUSD or a FUHSD student? Why is a non-resident moving into Cupertino more important than a current Cupertino resident? Have you been consulted? I urge our council members, your job is not just what is the agenda on dais today, but your job is to solve real problems for residents. And today you have an opportunity to do that. Please pick up the phone tonight, reach out to your FHDA Board of Trustee counterparts, reach out to the DEANZA Chancellor, and please press for this property to not be purchased by FHDA. This is the long-time home for decades for families that have grown-up children in our schools. We cannot afford to lose enrollment in our schools, and DEANZA is not more important than our schools. And I have at least 5 others on the call who are listening, but are hesitant to speak because they've never spoken in front of a city council before. You owe it to your residents. Please do not let us down, and prioritize picking up the phone tonight and talking to your FHDA Board of Trustee colleagues so that they leave current Cupertino residents alone. And I also want to say it is critical that you allow for the full speaking time. I'm really disappointed, Mayor Chow, that you are cutting the public speaking time so much for being pro-resident. If somebody needs to leave, that is their prerogative. But some council member on dais' time is not more precious than the time of your residents that vote for you. And when you can come by and knock on doors and take time from us, you deserve it to give it back to the residents who are on the call for the first time and want to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, San. And our final speaker will be Tessa Parrish. Welcome, Tessa.
Hi there. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am calling to support and give a little more information on reasons not to open the sound wall. So people will inevitably take the route of least resistance, and we know that most people will either have guests or have people that do have cars and will want to park there. And while when the units are being sold, they can promise that, you can tell them there's no parking, you have to use public transit, it will inevitably lead to parking in the neighborhoods. But my concern, I live in the neighborhood just over by Lawson, is the amount of traffic. I just had to call about the traffic that's getting faster. They're just speeding down Lazaneo and all through our streets, and the nights it's continuous. If that gets opened up, it'll be a lot worse. So I really wanted to urge you to, when it comes up, I'm sure it will come up again, please don't let that sound wall come down for that and many other reasons. The traffic is already quite amazing there. Another point I just wanted to add quickly was to about the crime and the robberies in the neighborhoods. One of the residents mentioned maybe hiring or obtaining our own police force, but I have seen several sheriffs, when they get pulled over, they have 2 or 3 cars to one incident call. I think the city has plenty of sheriffs based on the number of calls. I myself have called, and I've had plenty, and I love that. They come very quickly, but I don't want to promote having our own police department. I would like to see the Safety Commission be a little more active. We used to have the different programs that involve the community, and I think that we can work from that point a lot better to keep our neighborhood safe. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Thank you, Tessa. And Mayor, so we will resume.
Yeah. Okay.
Would you like me to read the names or just take them up?
No, they will wait. I think the council procedure manual has 30 minutes for public comment, and usually we might extend it to 40 minutes. But then we do need to put the time for the actions that's on the agenda. So the rest will have to speak after the agenda, the action calendar.
Yes, under oral communications continued on the agenda.
Yeah, so now oral communication is paused, not closed, right? Okay, so now council member who has a question or comment, direction to staff, to refer to staff, you can speak now. Councilmember Furan.
Yes, this is relatively quick with respect to Mr. Muripatla's question about the unhoused individual on McClellan at Tianza. My understanding was that this particular encampment was slated for a resolution today. Did that occur?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So is that encampment then gone at this point?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the update. Anyone else? So I would like to request an info memo on the burglaries. And I think there was question about the sheriff budget we have, and so if I would like to also point out the city manager's bi-weekly newsletter has information on the current burglary for it's posted there. And then you are also encouraged to attend the Public Safety Commission meeting. The sheriff and the fire chief all have representatives attending. So you are encouraged to bring your issues there. So if we can get some information about burglary data and what the sheriff is doing to address these issues.
So would this be a redistribution of the latest public safety report from the sheriff's office? That was just included in the last week's IOI. But we can always...
Does that include a budget for the sheriff?
The budget in terms of the current contract or...
yeah, the current contract that we have for the sheriff. I think that was a question.
So we can certainly recirculate the current contract. Not a problem.
Thank you. And the rest question, I'll address them offline. Yeah. Council Member Mohan.
I wanted to make a quick comment on the wall issue. I think, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe city manager can correct me if I'm mistaken, I thought the city was working with Caltrans to see if another access road was a possibility.
The city is currently not working with anyone, as this is a county project, and I believe the county is working closely with the Caltrans to explore other alternative. But at this point, I'm looking at CDD. We don't have any application submitted on this at this site.
Okay, so that's still the case.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor, you have a comment?
Quick question. Is there some way that we can find out a little bit more information about the McClellan Terrace apartments and its impact on the city? The concern is the decrease in enrollment that it will have as an impact on the schools. And if we could have that information, and if there is something that we can do as a council to communicate with the Foothill de Anza district on that.
I can certainly follow up, but I have not heard any information provided by the community school district, college district.
Okay. So I'll take this offline. Thank you.
Okay. So then next is a consent agenda calendar. We have any request to pull the items?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Mohan has requested to remove item 7 for discussion.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes? Yeah.
So may I have the motion to approve item 2 to 6?
Mayor, would you like public comment?
Public comment from the item 2 to 6 first.
And currently I see no request to speak on this item.
Okay. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any comment? No, let's vote.
Still doing roll call?
That has been prepared, Councilmember Wong.
Okay.
The motion carries unanimously.
And then the pulled item will be put after the action item, at the action calendar. That's after item 10, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, okay. Vice Mayor Moore, do you have a request?
This is it's a question of the city attorney. This is to reaffirm the amendments to the procedures manual. So are the amendments that were made previously not in effect?
They aren't in effect until we finalize the red line. So we thought it made sense to bring back the specific detail of the language for the council to review and finalize.
Okay, so through the mayor, it would actually be my preference that we move to this item first and then move on. But it's your prerogative.
Okay. Do we need a motion for?
It's your prerogative.
To that? Okay. Would you like
to reorder the agenda?
Can I just request that?
No, we do need a motion.
Need a motion.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to make that motion?
Yes, that I move that we address item 7 right after the public hearings.
Second.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Or is this considered a public hearing for this particular item?
No, it's not a public hearing.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Can I have a second? Thank
you.
You
Have a second.
Okay. So let's vote. So we will hear the procedures manual first. Okay.
The motion carries with Fruin voting no.
Okay. So the procedures menu, I believe Council Member Mohan would like to make some comments that she was not given a chance to make last time. And I would like to point out the reason I had to make a lot of my proposed revision on the dais was because the city attorney at the time didn't allow me to include my comment on a proposal as part of the agenda packet or even as supplemental report. And for Council Member Mohan, her comment was included in the supplemental report of the last meeting, so it was considered part of the agenda packet. Therefore, I didn't see a need to go through every document in the agenda at the time. But I think Councilmember Mohan feels strongly that she wants to have a chance to make her comments on the dais, so we are giving her the time now. You'll have 5 minutes. Yeah.
I don't need that.
Oh.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. And as you rightly pointed out, when this item was brought before the council on March 4th, I did not get an opportunity to weigh in on your recommendations. And there wasn't full participation by this council either, but there was a vote called and your version was approved by the majority. So I accept that. But the reason I wanted to pull this item from the consent calendar today, and this is a first for me, was to make sure that I went on record to point out not every single item that I disagreed with, and there are quite a few of those, but I will let it go. But there is one item that I do feel strongly about, and that is section 6.6, which is, and I don't have it on the screen, but it's relating to council member access to information. In this section, you rightly point out at the beginning that city council members have free access to the flow of information relating. I'm good, thank you. Yeah, you rightly point out that city council members have free access to the flow of information relating to the operation of the city. At the end of the section, however, the policy states that a council member may file a Public Records Act request just like any other member of the public. So I just wanted to make everyone aware that there was an information memo published a few weeks ago, I think it was January, if I'm not mistaken, about PRA requests which have completely spiraled out of control. Just in 2024, there were 333 PRA requests. I mean, that is an impossible number to even imagine. And I just checking with cities which are twice, 3 times our size, we definitely are the leader in this if we want to take credit for this. I want to make sure that we all understand the impact on city operations when a PRA request comes in. These have the unintended consequences, or maybe these are intended consequences, of bringing city operations to a complete halt, because there's a huge staff effort involved in complying with the 10-day response period that the state mandates. I haven't heard any complaints from the city manager or the staff, but I've worked on the other side, and I know how paralyzing it is to have one PRA request, let alone 333 in 1 year. Maybe not all the members of the public who regularly file PRA requests are aware of this, but it is really, I think, up to us to set a good example for how to effectively get information from the city without impeding city operations. We as council members have other means to seek and get information, and we should not be filing PRA requests. And that's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Council Member Fruin and Vice Mayor Moore and Council Member Wang.
So the one thing I do want to take some degree of...
I guess first right now is question, right? Okay, never mind. Let's just do the comment, and then we still need to open for public comment.
The primary thing that I take issue with here is the lack of collegiality on this topic. The refusal of the city attorney to include proposed changes really isn't enough for me on that topic. If we prize being able to hear everyone's views, and we are going to honor the fact that every single one of us was elected by the whole city, then everyone should be able to have that opportunity to express a view, whether it is dissenting or not. You might find that you agree. So all that was necessary in this instance, and frankly going forward, is exactly what happened when we initially created the procedures manual, which is that it went through multiple iterations. I think it took us 3 sessions of discussion and review in order to get to a point where they were enacted. So all that was necessary was to pass a motion asking the city attorney to incorporate the proposed set of changes, for it to come back to council so that we could have had the fullest discussion possible. I think that that's what we owe to each other and to the public. So I will leave it at that, and hopefully the next time that these rules come before us for revision, we follow a more measured and collegial approach. I'll reserve the rest of my time.
Vice Mayor Moore.
Right. Thank you. And so I would like to draw members of the public's attention to the Cupertino Public Records website. You can look at all the public records requests that have been made. A number of them are repeat requests from individuals that don't live in the United States even, and that the increase in public records requests happened. So that we had like some in around the 200s, and it went up over 300 between 2023 and 2024. That's not at all due to council requests. As to the information requests, we, for instance, had an informational memo request that took 5 months to be answered. There was some information that I was requesting, which I used to be able to do a public records request. It took me an entire year for that information to actually come back on the council because it was put off as a TBD over and over. And then when I finally did get the information, it unfortunately wasn't what I asked for, and which was something that I could have negotiated a lot faster had I done a public records request on that. And when I'm looking for data, I'm not looking for data that's been had a staff report associated with it. I just want the raw data. How much was spent on this? That's all I'm looking for. So I look forward to having the ability to make public records requests. Part of that was how I stumbled upon the $65 million that was in a non-interest-bearing checking account that lost us over $2 million. So that's part of our fiduciary duty, requires that we get information in a timely way and we're able to act on it. Thank you.
Okay, so this is an issue that I feel very strongly about. It is a federal law that we have a Freedom of Information Act. Anyone can request public records of public federal agency. California has a public records request that the state legislature adopted to allow anyone to request public records. And this only means a record search of existing records. And other school districts have experienced a peak, a high volume of requests when there are controversial issues. And that's when the public need information. And we have no right to limit their or the council member or school board members' right to access existing record. And there are already tools available to do this search quickly and redact information quickly to provide this. So I don't think this is different from an information request that a lot of times the city staff might need to spend time to create a document. So I want to make it very clear, public records request is a simple record search of existing public records. If anyone has misunderstanding of that, maybe you should read more into that. And Cupertino probably is like the only agency in the entire United States or the entire California that does not allow a council member to make that request. This is a shame that we even adopted this. So I'm glad that we are restoring the right for the council members to make the very basic public records request. Thank you. So
I have one quick comment.
And also that we will have another discussion. We are adopting a current version, but there was more proposal. We will have another discussion of revision next time. But we will adopt the current version so that we can implement the new policy that people have been waiting for actually for 2 years. Councilmember Wong.
Yeah, I think it was really important for the public to understand that 6.6, the revision there is there because the rights of a council member to ask for public information should be the same as the ones for a public. That's all. Thank you.
And I think we still need public comment to open to public comment.
Mayor, I had reserved time.
Yeah.
So there was an assertion that you had made before that no other public agency disallows its governing board from making Public Records Act requests. There's a disciplinary procedure in San Jose for that. So that's not true.
There is? Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Yes, Mayor, I see one request to speak. San R. Welcome, San.
Good evening, Mayor Chow and council members. It appears that we are repeatedly reminded of what San Jose does. This is not San Jose. Cupertino residents did not pay Cupertino property prices to be reminded of what San Jose does. We are not aspiring to become San Jose in every aspect. I understand the council member has more familiarity with San Jose perhaps, but please stop reminding Cupertino residents of what San Jose does, because we are Cupertino and we have our own unique aspects that we preserve and that we cherish. And speaking to the earlier comments that were made about being collegial on discussions, it is the same council member, along with that majority, that voted to kick out Ray Wong from Planning Commission after berating him for multiple hours in an unprecedented manner in March of 2023, exactly 2 years ago. So those that speak of being collegial are the ones that have resorted to unheard of, unprecedented moves when they could have chosen to dismiss in closed session. They could have chosen to ignore 20-year-old reports, or they could have chosen to allow him to complete his term. And the same people that speak of being collegial then went on to strip Katie Moore and Liang Chow from all committee assignments, and then went on further to refer Darcy Paul, an ex-mayor, to the county for further investigation. So these people that speak of being collegial have a track record of doing exactly the opposite. And as far as speaking up on items, on numerous occasions in the past 2 years, residents witnessed then Mayor Hung Wei cutting off Liang Chow repeatedly and cutting off Kitty Moore repeatedly. And there were even Cupertino residents that pointed out that it did not behoove people on the dais to behave in that manner and be disrespectful to fellow council members by cutting them off. And so it is unfortunate that Councilmember Mohan chooses to speak on this item of all the things. Of all the items to hang your hat on, you choose to defend a PRA right by a council member who is just another citizen and a resident and has the same rights as other citizens and residents. So I sure hope that council members will find issues worthy of your time and energy on behalf of residents, rather than repeatedly looking for items where you can go after your fellow colleagues on dais. Thank you.
Thank you, San. And we have our other speaker is Louise Sadati. Welcome, Louise.
Hello, this is Louise, resident of Cupertino for 38 years. My goodness. So that was quite a non-collegial public speech by San R, and it had such a string of attacks. I am just incapable of responding to all those attacks, and it is very glaring to me that if our Sheila Mohan wanted to support the previous procedures limiting the number of PRAs by certain council members who know that they had a history of putting in more PRAs than anybody else, and then badgering the staff to respond to those PRAs from the council member, it created quite a bit of stress and work overload. But Sanar is not going to talk about that. And then secondly, he goes on about oh my God, the attack on Ray Wang. So previously, there were some actions that he had done, that there were lawsuits, newspaper articles, etc., and so forth. And these were brought forward and discussed at length. And now San R is representing it as like a character attack, when basically, if you're going to be a public official and you have said certain things, and then it's brought up, the public has a right to know those details. It happened, it was talked about. And now to have somebody like San R go on the attack for the fact that this was brought up is unconscionable. And finally, when there were other certain acts that were done where I will say Liang Chow and Kitty Moore were brought up by the council and refused to stand and respond to the comments of the council. They stepped off the dais rather than respond to any of the comments made. So that is opaque, that is not transparent. So I would say, let's be transparent. Basically, the PRAs were very detrimental and harmful to our staff that already are overworked and they have lost staff. So let's be transparent and truthful, in spite of what San R has to say, which is very biased and one-sided. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, there are no additional requests to speak on this item.
Thank you. Can we have a motion?
I move the recommended action that we adopt resolution number 25-021, reaffirming amendments to the Cupertino City Council Procedures Manual.
Wong, second.
Okay. So I think we have all made our comments on the issue, so let's just vote.
The motion carries with Mohan and Fruin voting no.
Okay. Next item is the citywide policy inventory and authorize a gap analysis on the city council policy inventory. Hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Christina Alfaro, Director of Administrative Services. Here with me today is Chelsea Ritchie with our internal auditors, Moss Adams. I'll start off the presentation, hand it over to Chelsea, and then she'll hand it back over to me to wrap it up. On the agenda this evening, we're going to briefly go back, talk about the background, how this item was added to the work program and why it's before you this evening. As I said, I'll pass it over to our internal auditors to go over their portion of the report covering the administrative policies. It'll come back over to me to talk about how we came about the council inventory policies, which are included as an attachment to the report, and then we'll briefly go over the recommendations before council this evening. So just a really brief background, this is a council work program item. It was originally titled Whole City Policy Review. As you can see on the slide, this is a repeat of a 2013 process, looking at both administrative and council policies and providing recommendations and updates. Since we've been working closely with our internal auditors, we thought this was a perfect opportunity for them to continue the work they had done originally with our financial policies to review all of our citywide administrative policies. And with that, I will hand it over.
Thank you, Christina. This is Chelsea Ritchie, for the record, with Moss Adams. So talking about the citywide policy inventory gap analysis, this project took place last fiscal year. And what we were looking at primarily is 7 departments. Like Christina had mentioned, we had already been looking at the finance department back in May of 2022, if you remember that report. So this looked at 7 different departments, and we were looking at all policies and procedures that were available from October 2023, and then the city did ask, this was a lot of documents, mind you, over 160. So we extended that to receive documents up until June of 2024. And so what we are primarily looking at, which is really, really important to remember here, is that we were looking at administrative policies and procedures, not council resolutions. Those were not included. So looking at city processes internally and how those are managed. So how we went about this project, we obtained all available documentation from those 7 departments, and we documented a full inventory of what those departments had. So any existing policies and procedures, the date that those were last documented or last revised, as well as a summary of the coverage of those areas of those policies and procedures. We were in constant contact with all departments that were key stakeholders in this project, really making sure to make sure that we understood exactly the full inventory of those results, make sure that they understood our recommendations, so on and so forth. I will note that there was one department, and that would be the law enforcement. So the law enforcement, they have a contract with the County of Santa Clara, and they follow the county's policies for that area. So we did not look at those policies and procedures. And I would like to make sure that you did note that Moss Adams did put an NA for those. We cannot provide any recommendations since we were not able to see those policies and procedures. But what did we do with the policies that we could see? We performed a gap analysis. So we looked at potential gaps in coverage with the policies that were given to us. We assessed those policies and procedures for improvements for opportunity. And then we helped the city with a roadmap, really categorizing the significant and extent of the gaps that we found within those policies. And we categorized those by full gaps, which meant there was, major areas missing, with also having, medium gaps or moderate gaps. So, areas that we recommended that the city improve, as well as, if there was updates that just needed to be made, that so on and so forth. And with those gaps, we also assessed by risk level. So you'll see that on this slide right here, high, medium, and low. So this was given to the city and, talked with the city to make sure that this was something that was really doable with them. So you'll see that there's recommended phase and timing associated with those risks and what the city could do. It is really important to also know that with this report, this gives you a summary of the policies and those areas. It does not give you the areas of concern and those recommended gaps. Those really are managerial city staff processes, and so it really wasn't something that would be appropriate to put into this report, but that was something that was given to the city. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Christina again.
Thank you, Chelsea. So when it came to the city council policy inventory, so I also do want to mention that the administrative policy portion was presented to to the audit committee, as this is an internal audit report, and all internal audit reports are first reviewed by audit committee and then brought to council. The reason why we took the inventory separate and apart from this item is staff needed to figure out a way to get through almost 70 years of records and pull out the policies. If you can imagine, if we were to outsource that to Moss Adams, that likely would have gotten very pricey. So we were a little delayed in trying to figure out the kind of quickest process to get through this. And so this was really a collaborative effort between all the departments listed on this slide. And what we ended up doing is, with AI being all of the rage, we went to our IT department and said, listen, the tool that we have to search the records, it's clunky, it takes a lot of time, we keep trying to chip away at it, but it's taking so many staff hours. Is there any way we can utilize AI to quickly search for key terms? And our IT department developed a learning a machine learning process, which allowed us to search several records very quickly, and that allowed us to go back to all the records back to 1955, pull out key terminology, and from that process we pulled out 194 what we would consider council policies. Those were reviewed by the city attorney's office, the city clerk's office, city manager, kind of for completeness to make sure there wasn't something we had missed in terms of our search criteria. So we feel like it's probably not a 100% list, but it's a really good list for the amount of time and utilizing this tool. So if anything is missed, we're more than happy to go back, add it back in. I also want to thank the city clerk's office. So under the digital archives now, under city council, I believe there's a tab where you can click it and see the council policies. If it's not there yet, it will be there shortly. Kirsten's giving me the nod, so it's already there, so easy to access as well. And with that, the recommendations before you are on the screen. So what we're recommending at this point is to receive the report from Moss Adams, and then secondly, to authorize Moss Adams to include this, the second piece, which is the gap analysis for the council policies as part of their fiscal year 25-26 internal audit work program. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Let's do questions on 5 minutes. Councilmember Furan.
I mean, I hope it's not premature in this setting, but is there any way for you to elaborate on the one high-risk area that you found in capital improvement policy, and then also the two medium-risk areas that you found in campaign restrictions and the redaction policy?
Sure, I can go, and then Christina, please feel free to add. So the high-risk policy, this was something in the public works, and this was something that we have highlighted before in our enterprise risk assessment, as well as several other internal audit reports before, and that is the capital improvement program, capital improvement policy. So this is something that we would typically see within a city, and there we did identify this as a major gap and something that really the city should consider moving forward with and developing a comprehensive policy in this area. So then going on to your medium risk policies, these, I will say there was 3 in public works, as well as innovation and technology, as well as parks and recreation. So when we think about a medium risk, that means that the city does have something there, but there was gaps that needed to be fulfilled. It's a medium risk. It is not something high alert, and it's something also that the city is committed and wanting to improve upon within the agreed upon timeline.
I guess what I was asking here is a little bit more specific. Could you elaborate on the particularities of the gap that you found?
So remember that we did provide those details to city management. Those really are a city management function, and
got it. No, that's fine. Other than authorizing you today as requested, is there any other initiative that council should undertake in order to assist?
I think at this point, we actually kind of struggled with the second piece of this, and we thought, staff doesn't really have the broad expertise to opine on what policies maybe, what's best practice for council to have, or what those should look like. And so I think that was for us, it was a big portion to just get the list together and then be able to hand it off to Moss Adams, who does have that expertise and can kind of come back to council with similar recommendations that we have in this report. I also want to point out, back to your previous question, on page 3 of the Moss Adams report, it does give kind of, I know it doesn't give the detail, but in general, kind of what a medium or a high risk might be.
Yeah. So basically, in the course of the continuing analysis, additional recommendations might shake out. Is that what you're telling me?
Correct.
Okay. All right. At what point do you think it would be valuable to undertake this sort of analysis again? Like, how many years should we be waiting?
So what will happen, and Justin can chime in here if I get any of the dates wrong, is we'll work with Moss Adams. They did the enterprise risk assessment that kind of gives the roadmap for kind of where the audit should be going over the next, I think we're 1 year in, so over the next couple of years. It's done generally about every 3 years, and so what Moss Adams will do is they'll kind of give us a list of things they think we should consider for the work plan for the next year. Those get presented, so before they get presented to audit, we kind of work with us to work out a roadmap of what goes when, because they understand that staff has certain busy seasons, so tacking something on, let's say, in the middle of the budget process for my department might be a little difficult to complete on time. And so I don't know that we have that answer today. I think we have to holistically look at what we'll be bringing forward for that audit plan and then plan accordingly, but likely we're recommending the work take place over the next fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor Moore.
Okay, so I'm really happy to see this work having been done. Back a few years ago, I found a large binder which had a lot of policies in it, and at the front of the binder there was information from the attorney who had gone through the policies back in 2013 and reviewed them. Somewhere in there I found resolution, so this is a City Council resolution 07-122, adopting the environmentally preferred purchasing policy, and I don't recall seeing it in the City Council list, and I do have some more of these resolutions that I've picked up over the years and squirreled them away. So I'll provide them if I don't see them in this list. But with the purchasing policy, I've been interested in seeing this one updated, because this was back in, I guess it would have been 2007 with that numbering on there. So there's a number of things that could be updated, and we want to see this, especially like with Earth Day coming up, that if we're going to have a compostable cup, for instance, that it's actually something that will be compostable within the system that we have. So if it says industrial compostable, we don't want to provide that, because it's not going to work with what we have. So I'm hoping that one resolution could be looked at. It kind of seems like a staff matter as opposed to something the council should be imposing, but I don't know how that would work exactly. For the capital improvement program, I feel like this policy has kind of a time is of the essence issue with it. So I have the last CIP booklet, which is 2023 to 24, and in it does have the capital improvement policy. I've been looking at other cities' CIP. Here's Morgan Hill. They do theirs on a 6-year basis, and they do their, I believe their work program is on a 2-year basis as well. So I think this one, with regards to capital improvement, should be something that the council looks at with regards to the timing. And so in Morgan Hill, they receive their CIP at the same time that they get their operational budget, and it's complete. It's for instance, their last one here, this was June 19th, full operational budget completely done, full CIP completely done. And as I mentioned, the most recent CIP we have is from fiscal year 2024. So we're 9 months late. And so I'd like to know what's the impact to the city if Baker Tilly looked at this situation as well, and they made some comments to the effect of us not having the 5-year plan in place for the CIP, and that we need to get the current CIP approved as of like volume 2, and that we need to have a current one. So what's the danger for us as the council for us to not have these documents? And I did see some, like our policy doesn't mention the state law, but there is some state law with regards to having a capital improvement plan and what it should have in it.
So capital improvement program, it's a best practice to have a 5-year capital improvement program. And for those of you who have been around for a while, we have, as Chelsea mentioned, we've noted this in our original risk assessment in 2020, the last one we did in 2023. And in 2022, we also did a capital program effectiveness study, and there's a lot of detail in that study about the value of longer-term capital planning, about the value to the city. I would say there are some pretty significant risks that can occur related to not having a long-term plan in place. And the primary risk is financial risk. So if we don't plan long-term for these major dollar investments, you can be caught not being able to afford an investment. You can also be caught where you go through the design phase, but you haven't actually approved construction or execution. And if it's subject to political winds, or if there is a change in city administration, it's not a priority anymore, that money is a sunk cost. And so that's a pretty significant challenge, and it's something that we've seen in other cities as well. You do have a 2-year CIP right now, and I think the intention for a lot of cities that do a shorter CIP is they only want to look at what's funded. When you have a longer CIP, and in fact what we often see is you'll have a 5-year with an expenditure plan, you might have a very long unfunded list, then you actually understand everything that's on that list as well. You can understand when there might be opportunities for grants that could move something up the list. And so it can allow you to have better fiscal planning and spending over the course of long term. And it helps you to also leave a legacy for future councils so you get invited back to ribbon cuttings when stuff gets opened or fixed.
Wonderful, thank you. And so does this mean that if we approve the recommended action, does that mean that things like this capital improvement policy is going to get updated, and could it possibly include the government code 66002, which talks about the legal requirements if you actually are doing one of these plans?
Yeah, so I'd say there are kind of two parts. One is staff to be directed to develop the policy, and the second is, as we're going through council policies for the council policy inventory, to make sure that this council's budget policy adequately reflects council's vision for what your CIP should look like and what your expectations are. And that's typically where we expect a 5-year CIP. We see that often in council policies.
Okay, thank you. And is there some way that we can push this one particular policy up higher, since it's in a higher risk category as well?
Well, I think it's been committed to getting it done within 6 months, right?
That's correct. Based on the risk assessment, is to be done within the next 6 months.
Okay, and is good pacing on that?
I think so. It's going to take a little bit of time to get everybody on the same page. If you revisit that 2022 study, capital planning and programming happens across almost every city department, so it involves a lot of stakeholders. So it's not just as simple as Christina running a finance policy and signing off on it, right?
There's a lot of parts to it.
Yeah.
Could you remind me the title of the 2022 study?
Yeah, it's
please?
a capital program effectiveness study.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else have questions? If not, I have some question. So the policy search dates back 1955, but the report didn't really say when those policies were adopted. So from the report, it's unclear whether a policy might be 50 years old or 20 years old or 10. Do you have a more detailed report with a date for each of the policy?
So for the citywide administrative policies, we did do an inventory that we provided to staff. I think that Christina was referring to some of the city council policies that have gone back to the 1950s or 60s. I will say that there was not anything within the city administrative policies and procedures that went back that far.
Oh, so the city administrative policy went back how far then?
I don't know off the top of my head. I can get back to you. I think there may be some more in our administrative procedures that might be some old things, maybe from like say like the 80s or 90s. But I think we review those policies. If something changes either with our bargaining units or with state law, those get those get updated pretty regularly if they need to be.
And many of them says update needed. So this is based on your recommendation to update every 3 years, 5 years?
Yeah, so we
whatever.
typically recommend that at least looking at policies and procedures biannually, so every 2 years
Every
is best
2 years.
practice.
So wherever it says update needed, it could be 2, it could be 10 or more. So can we get this in report that has given to the staff with more detail about these policies? I am curious. It's administrative, but then I am curious about what's the content. So you mentioned it will be posted on the city archive?
Historically, we haven't provided this document. It's an internal working document where Moss Adams lets us know specific places where our policies need to be improved upon. And then Moss Adams has historically, working off that list, staff provides Moss Adams, because they have the subject matter expertise. They go over the updated policies, ensure it's meeting best practices, and then they report back to council that that's been completed.
Okay, so the administrative policies won't be posted to the city archive. That means when you complete the CIP policy, administrative policy, it won't be shared with the council either.
Correct.
So can the council request to see this administrative policy? Because we are the body overseeing city operation.
I believe in, city attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, this body oversees policy and city manager oversees operations. So a city manager would review and be aware of the policies and procedures around it. Another risk that we've been concerned about is, as well with all the phishing attempts, if we put everything out there about how we process items in the city, it opens us up for additional risks that someone attempting to do a cyber attack on the city could see how items are processed. And so that's been another concern of ours, I think. Thirdly, and Moss Adams can speak to this as well, is that most cities do not publish their administrative policies. They're considered internal documents processing how the city does their internal processes.
Okay, but the specific ones, for example, the CIP policy, probably the council can request to see some specific ones, right?
So I think it will depend on the policy. We'll work closely with Moss Adams if they feel like this needs to be a public policy, like something that's generally in a CIP book. They'll give us that recommendation that should be there. Otherwise, if it's more procedural, it will stay administrative.
Okay, and is there any policy that other cities have but we don't? For example, maybe a credit card use policy. I didn't find that. And then maybe I think some cities are considering some AI policy in terms of facial recognition. So are there policies we don't have? Because it seems the report only mentioned here are the existing policy, your evaluation of the existing one. So where is the gap?
Yeah, so when you gave the example of the credit card policy, that was addressed in our May of 2022 report. So that was the fiscal policy in inventory.
Okay.
And then I will add to that, we do have an AI policy, but this is when we do our audits, it's point in time. So they kind of gather all the information up to a point in time, and that policy was adopted after.
Okay. For example, I will be interested in park strip policy, how we manage the park strip, because so for specific policies, I wonder if we can get more detail. Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Moore and Council Member Wong. How much time you have? Oh, Ellen, would you like to speak first?
I can yield time if you need time, Vice Mayor Moore.
Well, this is just a quick question regarding the mayor was asking about the capital improvement policy. So there is fiscal policies within the the CIP budget, and it does speak. Well, some of it's a little confusing for me as a council member to read, because it says an objective process for evaluating CIP projects with respect to the overall needs of the city will be established through a priority ranking of the CIP projects. And this we stumbled on this a couple years ago for what's our role with prioritizing items, especially when you will have things which are maintenance related, and that really should not be anything that we're really involving ourselves in generally, I would think not. And that you have a facilities conditions booklet which provides a lot of insight for what the city staff should be working on, and I'm aware of that, but then there should be a way within this process for the city council to weigh in on the things that you'd like to have that you don't need to have, and whether those likes can be ordered up in this process. And we're going to be doing the CIP in a couple of weeks, and it would be great if there was some guidance that we could have about how other cities are doing this with regards to their input to the process before then. Otherwise, when we tried to make up a process on the fly, it didn't work that well. So I'd appreciate some help with that. Thanks.
So just kind of high level, a couple of things that you can do going into a process is it's really council's role to set those criteria for prioritization. So when you think about, life safety, for example, if we can leverage grant funding, if we know that it's a major community priority, right, because it's associated with a development or something like that, those are the types of criteria that we often see councils weigh in on and agree on for development or prioritization of projects. What we don't want is to have you in the weeds looking at or advocating for individual projects, right? Because then it becomes sort of like Congress, and we a project in every district, and it's not exactly an equitable process, right? So we want to make sure that you're really looking at it from that. How do we benefit the whole city? Because we have limited resources. So thinking about that really from that criteria perspective can be very helpful. As you go through the process of developing a comprehensive 5-year CIP book and those policies, I would anticipate staff coming back, right? Because you're gonna need to weigh in on what does this look like? Does it make sense to the public? Does it make sense to us? So you will see, while you might not see the full procedural detail, you will see those pieces where it's important for council to weigh in on, and it's kind of similar to a budget, right? There's a lot of budget procedural work, but you are really engaged in that kind of policy and strategy level.
Vice Mayor Moore, I'm going to steal some of my time back.
Okay.
That's okay.
Councilmember Wang, yeah.
Just quickly, how much did the inventory assessment cost us?
I believe it was $40,000.
Got it. It's been 70 years of policies that we finally put together into one place. Is that what's going on?
No, that was to look at the over 100 policies that we
have today, as of today. Okay.
The list of 190 some policies that was done internally with that
you did
AI
that piece.
learning.
You guys
tool.
did that piece. Okay. In this report, and this is really more to the Moss Adams folks, in this report, in your best judgment, were there any policies that you think are missing versus any other cities our size that we should be having?
I believe, with what we learned from the different departments, those 7 departments, I believe that our analysis gives you an idea of, where we think that there's areas of improvement versus just a need for an update. We didn't see any glaring issues where there was a complete policy missing from our judgment.
And any we should remove?
So, this is really something that's up to the city.
Okay.
If the city believes that a policy is important, they are the experts of their internal processes. And that really isn't we're a third party. I mean, we can give our judgment and our expertise and recommendations, but ultimately it does lie on the city.
I would love to hear those recommendations at a different point in time. I'd also like to see guidance on CIP. I think that's going to be useful. And one quick comment, public access to information has to be balanced out with the hypothetical security risk. If it's public information, then it's public information, and any withholding of it should be narrowly made, not broadly denied. So leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, so now let's open. Councilmember Moore, you haven't asked any question. Just wondering.
I haven't, because I have already reviewed this at the
you're on
audit
the
committee,
audit
and
committee.
all my questions
Okay,
have been answered.
so then
thank you.
let's open to the public comment.
Yes, Mayor, I currently see one member of the public requesting to speak virtually, San R. Welcome, San.
Good evening, Mayor Chow. I think one of the attachments that probably could have been helpful in the report is the Moss Adams Enterprise Risk Assessment from 2024, which really has some of the details behind some of these items, I believe. At least that's what I could find. I do also want to mention that the audit page of the city that has links to several detailed reports actually has a number of broken links. So I encourage council members and staff to go to the audit page and click on those links, and you'll find that about 80% of the links are broken, and you get 404s on them. So please have the links restored, because those audit reports are extremely useful, especially if you want to double click on what these reports are telling us. I think it is telling that 64% of staff surveyed thought the financial situation of the city was terrible to bad. And I think, the city has painted a rosy picture, including in public reports recently about the city's budget, when in fact the staff perception is telling us the reality, that we are in an unsustainable situation, and we need to really take a holistic look at how we are spending, not how you can raise taxes. There is no solution here that will solve the problems holistically by raising taxes on already overtaxed residents. So I urge council to act quickly. I believe I've heard Councilmember Wong asking previously about, can we publish a list of contracts? I'd like to see council direct staff to agendize an item to publish the list of active contracts, and to look at what contracts will you cut now, this month. We have no insight or no line of sight to contracts that were started in the previous council majority, contracts that should never have been begun, contracts such as 170K or more to a consultant to go look at public-private partnerships, a consultant to go look at buying a 1970s office building, a consultant to go look at a recycled water study plan, 500K for removing lanes on Dianza. So we're spending money like it's monopoly money, and that has to stop right away. And given the track record of how we have spent that money, I would urge council to direct an agenda item to reduce the discretionary spending limit of the city manager from 170K or thereabouts to 50K or less, so that council can really bring control and reduce this ad hoc spending that is happening. The second thing I want to point out is we spend on projects with an assumed grant funding that will come eventually, but we never track whether the grant funding actually came through or we had to pay for that. And so please agendize an item to track for prior active CIP projects that were funded and have been progressing. Are we seeing the grant?
Thank you, Sam. That is your time. And we have one member of the public wishing to speak in Community Hall. That is Peggy Griffin. Welcome, Peggy.
Good evening, City Council and staff. In listening, the first I was going to ask that I didn't understand whether the gap analysis was the gaps within the existing policies or the gaps of missing policies. And so I want like you to repeat it. Which one is it? My understanding as of the last few sentences is that it's both. But when I look at the list, it feels like there's some missing. The other thing that I wanted, finance, there are certain departments. So this is a good start. I would recommend that you have a directory or somewhere where you start squirreling away all the policies so you don't have to search for them again, and put them in categories like you've done and just keep updating them. My other concern is that they're not public. I understand the part about the security and you don't want outside forces to know your process, but There are a lot of policies that don't have that and should be flagged as public so that the public knows how you do this, what your routine is for that, whether somebody's following the rules. Anyway, thank you, and thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Peggy. Mayor, no additional requests to speak on this item.
Can we answer the question Peggy asked about what gap of existing policy or gap of missing policy? Is it?
Right. So we were looking, we looked at many other policies other than what you are seeing on this report. This report is showing you areas from policies that we believe need to be updated, or that there was, a lack of process within the policy. So it is both that we looked at. So we looked at holistically what the city has currently, as well as what we would recommend and what we would see as best practices based on other cities of your size.
Okay. So, for example, I'm like the debt management policy. Do you look at the content of debt management? I think probably some cities have very detailed policy, 10 pages long. Some cities might have the same title, maybe 2 pages. So do you look at the content on what we are missing? Maybe there are sections of that policy we should have included.
Right. So we would look, but with your example given, that was not a policy that we would have looked at this time around, because that is more of a fiscal policy that we looked at back in May of 2022. So we only look specifically at the 7 departments. If you look at page 2 of the report, administrative services, city manager's office, community development, innovation and technology, law enforcement, parks and recreation, as well as public works.
So just take any one. So do you look at the content and see if that content is up to, like, I guess, the standard? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So can we have a motion to, that's,
I'll move the staff recommended action.
okay.
I'll second it.
Second, okay. And let's each do 1 minute comment on, if you have more additional comment.
I just want to reiterate that I want to
Vice
see
Mayor.
thank you, Mayor, that I'm very interested in seeing the capital improvement program policy move forward, and hopefully, since budget format is part of the audit committee, that the audit committee will take a look at the capital improvement budget and look at it in relation to perhaps some other cities, because like the rules that I mentioned from the state law, they're very broad in a sense, so that what you're actually looking at might be hard to understand depending on how the information is formatted for the council. Okay, so anyway, thank you. I'm so glad you went through all of these policies.
Anyone else? Councilmember Mohan?
Quick comment. I just wanted to thank Director Alfaro for leading this project, and Moss Adams for doing such a terrific job of compiling all the policies. I remember when I think November was when it came before the audit committee, and it was a pleasant surprise to see only one red sort of blotch on the report. And I remember asking you if it was typical, and I think your comment was that we were ahead of many other jurisdictions that you had worked with. So I'm happy that we're sort of in the lead on that, and all credit goes to you, Moss Adams staff, Colleen, and Administrative Services Director Alfaro, as well as City Manager. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? And I actually have one question regarding, I think we are a city that's urban, that's suburban city, but we see constructions in urban cities, they usually would require sidewalks to be reconfigured so that it would allow people to have sidewalk, but we don't have such a policy because there hasn't been a big need of that, but likely we will need that more. So is that something we are missing?
I think we can leave that question for this. If council moves forward with the recommendations, they'll do that gap analysis to say what other policies other cities typically have, and they'll bring that list for your consideration.
I think that this is more administrative policy in terms of during the construction, how do you keep the pedestrian walk accessible or bike paths accessible?
I'm not sure if that's something Moss Adams can opine on. I don't have that expertise.
Okay.
It looks like City Manager Wu might want to make a comment.
I believe there are best practices in the construction world. We can certainly have a conversation with the Public Works Department at the next council meeting during the CIP study session.
Yeah, because I think we are moving from suburban to urban, and there are probably policies that urban cities have to have. We haven't had in terms of like parking, right? We will be getting more of those challenges. So I'm curious what administrative and council policy gaps there are between that we should be looking forward to adopt before the problem arises.
So through the mayor, I apologize. And Colleen and Chelsea, correct me if I'm wrong. In the world of policy, there are actually a lot of guidance and best practice and procedures that operate our day-to-day job. We don't necessarily go do everything based on the policy, but there are a lot of ordinance-driven or best practice-driven or just how construction standard happen. So we don't, as even if we may not necessarily have a policy on this very particular topic that Mayor, you're bringing up, I believe the Public Works staff has guidelines and guidance and a lot of documentation that they follow through. So more than happy to share that with you. And I wouldn't necessarily advocate for not a policy, because policy lives only when the time it's good, and which is why Moss Adams is recommending us to updating it. But the best practices are out there, ever evolving. I'm seeing heads nodding, so I think I'm on the right track. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would say in this specific example, it's often in your ordinance or your design and construction standards, and so those are things that you can ask Public Works about and that you can have a conversation about that, and it's often at the municipal level driven by individual developments. Some very large cities have policies like that. I live in Seattle, we do not have a policy like that, so you're constantly crossing the street. So it really is up to you all how you want to pursue that, and it would be probably a detailed discussion with Public Works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. So I believe we can, Councilmember Wong?
Yeah. About that?
1 minute,
okay. Let's see here. I'm going to pull something real quick. Yeah, I'd like to add a friendly amendment to the motion to direct staff to provide counsel in its entirety and to, as broad as extent as possible, the public internal staff policies that have not been available to the public to this point. Is there a friendly amendment for that? Second.
I think we need to ask if the mover accepts the friendly amendment.
Yeah, that's one.
Oh, very good. Thank you.
Yeah, based upon the commentary from staff, I'm not comfortable with accepting that friendly amendment.
Mayor,
through the mayor, I have a question. So, Councilmember Wong, are you requesting that you see all the administrative policies?
I think it should be available to the public to be able to see.
To the public.
So, as well as us, or to the extent possible. I mean, at least we should be able to see them. To the public, I don't know what the limitations are.
Then, okay, I think make a substitute motion that we move the recommended action and direct staff to provide the city council in a confidential manner the administrative policies so that we have the ability to read them as well. Is that acceptable to
That's
the
acceptable
city
to me.
attorney?
But does that work for the city attorney? Yep.
That works for the city attorney. I think you might be asking for a huge amount of information, so you could limit it to if a city council member requests to see an administrative policy, then on a confidential basis, the city staff would provide that.
Well, the question would be then, so when I first saw that the book of policies all together, so at some point they had all been 2013, they'd all been compiled. So my assumption would be that everything has been electronically compiled now, and that it exists. It might be that it is that a yes or a no? Is that
Yes, they have been electronically compiled.
Oh,
Okay.
So it's actually easier to just make the volume available rather than individually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I think that might be something that IT would work on to make sure that it was secure.
Yeah.
Or it might be that we need to come down to City Hall and go look at it on a machine. If that needs to be done, then that's fine.
I think we have a secure cloud drive.
That's my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, so any other comment on the motion at the table? Then let's vote. Councilmember Mohan?
So the substitute motion is that the...
City Clerk, would you like to repeat the motion so it's more official?
Okay.
Yes, the substitute motion. Moore made a substitute motion, seconded by Wong, to approve the recommended action with direction to staff to provide the City Council, I believe, so to provide to the City Council in a confidential manner the administrative policies to date.
So my only question was when we ask for it, or you want to see it all the time?
I would say that if the City Council wants to come to City Hall, if that's the best way to do it, then that it would be available, during normal business hours.
But I would,
or if we're able to have it.
But if it's available in digital format, I would prefer it's made available digitally through a secure drive.
I mean, for, public to the extent possible, council entirely. So.
So.
Pardon, through the mayor. So I'm not suggesting that it be made public. It's
public,
just available
secure,
for the for the City Council in a secure manner.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that IT is happy, that our city attorney is happy, and that this information is kept secure.
So can I ask a quick question of the staff? So is that all right? Is that feasible without increasing workload substantially?
I can't speak for IT if they had to do something to secure the file, but we do have, we've actually just been waiting for this audit to get passed to add all of the actual policy numbers and finish compiling the book. So it could easily be available hard copy to view in its entirety, because I don't want to speak for IT in terms of what it would take to secure the file if we were to share that electronically.
I would like to add, I would prefer you can just put it into a OneDrive with secure access just to the council members. It shouldn't take you that long. So.
Do you accept the friendly amendment?
I'm not going to specify that it be OneDrive.
No, prefer,
you didn't need to specify. I'm just saying it shouldn't take them more than...
Prefer digital format if possible.
Sure, I'll accept that.
Yeah. Okay, Councilmember Fruin.
So I have, some concerns about what we would be doing with this information. When I asked earlier about particular gaps and so forth, I think what's clear here is that this is part of the administration of the city. It's about implementation, and then we should also be respecting what our role is as policymakers. Sometimes that's hard to define. Sometimes it's hard to see where the boundary is between where we sit and where staff sit. So I remain rather concerned about where we're going with this, and I am worried that we are straying into the space of councilmanic interference. And I would just admonish everyone against that tendency.
Vice Mayor Moore.
Through the mayor, to our city attorney, do you see an issue with us requesting to read the administrative policies?
On a confidential basis, I don't see necessarily an issue with that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Then let's vote.
The amended substitute motion carries with Fruin voting no.
Okay, we have two more items, and so the next item.
Mayor, at this moment, may I ask for the good of the order that we just have a quick break?
Okay, let's have 5-minute break.
Thank you.
Thank you. 9:17. The next item is a subcommittee report from the July 4th Fireworks Subcommittee. And I'd like to correct a little misstatement in the supplemental report. The subcommittee, I did request that the email from the subcommittee to be included in the agenda packet. And then I just wasn't sure should that be included as the email format or any other subcommittee format. So I was very surprised when I see there was no packet from no report from the subcommittee. So I did try. But at least now I think the subcommittee has submitted it as a supplemental in the report. So could you?
I'll just read it verbatim, if that's okay, Mayor.
Okay.
So the subcommittee met, and we ended up with two options. And what I'm going to read is the two options for site location, pros, cons, open issues, and next steps for each one of them. And I'll read them verbatim. They should be available in written form. So we have two options. Option one is to work with Hyde Middle School. And of course, in this scenario, the idea here is to explore working with this school district. The idea is to actually consider options to have the pancake breakfast at Quinlan and other related festivities. And we'd also see if there's any coordination with other entities like De Anza if they want to do celebrations, if they're interested. In this example, staff is also able to maybe consider Blackberry Farm if that's an option as a place to open up. But it would be more difficult if we try to do both those options. And so that's one of the things. We would also work with local businesses to encourage a fireworks night of activities before the fireworks to encourage dining around the city. So the pro of this venue is it's a known quantity. Residents are used to the motion. They know where to park and watch. The venue is most likely a venue that will continue on into the future. We still have to get approval from public safety, the fire department, sheriffs. They have to been through this, but they've been through this process. And the good news is funding has been allocated to cover that. This option does require a lot more staffing, a lot more work. We don't have necessarily staffing for this. And if we did this option, we wouldn't be able to do an optional Blackberry Farm set of activities. It'd be more difficult, but maybe something we consider in the future. The open issues, we are talking to a number of school board members about hosting this at Hyde. We have reached out indirectly to the superintendent. They've reached out to her as well. And at some point, we need to schedule a meeting between either the city manager and the superintendent, or Kitty and me, or the mayor and Kitty, or anyone from the staff to iron out the details. While there's solar panel work going on site, we can discuss preventative measures, should we choose that option. So the next steps is really to set up a meeting with the superintendent and maybe additional city staff, depending who wants to make that request. And of course, coordinate with local authorities and then reach out to the business community once we have a plan in place. Option two is a surprise to many people, but I think it's an interesting option. It's a once-in-a-lifetime option. Fireworks at the Rise. We had an opportunity to speak with Reed Molds at the Rise to see if they would be interested in exploring the possibility. They have considered the option. They will take a look at it. They will explore if that's a possibility. They're going to check with their general contractors to see what they need to do for any kind of liability. So it's active discussions, nothing permanent, but it's an option, and they've been open to having that option. And so the idea would be, if we would do that in that scenario, we would continue the morning traditions of the pancake breakfast at Quinlan and other related festivities. And then we would coordinate if De Anza would like to participate and join us for that. Staff is at that point able to have bandwidth to open up events at Blackberry Farm if we decide to do that. And we can work with local businesses to encourage a firework night activities before the fireworks to encourage dining around the city. The pro here is the venue allows for bigger shells and as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Staffing would be available for a Blackberry Farm set of activities, and the city would have less work but could actively promote. The cons is the RISE would have to fund those fireworks, but we might have a source to be able to help and assist that, to get private donations to sponsor those fireworks. We had an opportunity to sit down with Patrick Ahrens to talk about some funding there, and he's interested in helping to provide some funding as well to assist in these kind of activities. Open issues, we should be talking more with Reed Moltz at Sandhill and the RISE. We had a meeting with them, but we need to continue that discussion and figure out how the funding would be or how they'd be provided for sponsorships for the fireworks in that evening. So our next steps is really to continue to set up a meeting at that point, work with our state assembly member, Patrick Ahrens, to talk about fundraising, and that's the case, and then of course reach out to the business community. But I want to be clear, these are two options that are still being considered. Nothing has been settled, but we do have two sites that we've identified. We have to continue those discussions and hurry to continue those discussions because we have to, as our Parks and Rec Director Rochelle says, we definitely have to hurry to make sure we secure the right permitting and the right staffing to make sure that we do it safely as well. So that's kind of the quick update. Any questions?
Councilmember Mohan.
Councilmember Wong, was there any consideration given to anything other than fireworks?
There definitely was. We had a discussion. It was a discussion with the city manager. Go ahead. You want to go? There was a discussion with the city manager as well with Rochelle and Parks and Rec as well as other members. We looked at they had looked at drones in the past, and I believe, please correct me if I'm correct, but the show is half the time and it's 3 times the cost. And it only is available in one plane because the lead on the drones only show up in one place. And the hazard that we have to worry about is the fact that the drones might fall on top of you, so we have to make sure the clearance is a little bit larger.
So it's not a consideration?
It was considered, but it's 3 times the cost, and it is much more, it's a much shorter show.
And so you'll be presenting that information later at some point, pros and cons of drones as well as fireworks? And is that what's the process in getting to a decision?
The mandate was to look at fireworks. I think that's what was originally as it was worded. But we also took a look at drones because there are some considerations and requests from other people just to see what that would look like.
Okay, thanks.
Any other question? Vice Mayor.
Through the mayor, and thank you, Ray, for a great report. With regards to the drones crashing, do you recall hearing something about why Sunnyvale was not going to continue on with that show again this year?
I believe they had lost a good number of drones that they had to replace, and it was also the cost factor. So.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Furan.
So thank you, first of all. But is there any particular direction you're looking for from us as a body since you're presenting 2 options, or is it your intention to continue forward with both otherwise?
It's a great question. I think we should continue with both because we haven't have a commitment from the CUSD through the superintendent. We've reached out to the board members. We need to make sure that I would like to, the motion I would like to make at some point is to direct staff to engage the superintendent at CUSD and also to engage continuous conversations with Sandhill and the RISE for seeing what's possible.
Okay, that sounds prudent if we want to secure a venue. Just the one other thing I would make a comment on in looking at the report is that it appears to have been communicated on Monday, March the 10th, and there are 3 council members who are in this communication, and I would just ask us all to be a little bit more mindful of the Brown Act. So maybe in future, this sort of report, especially since we seem to be returning to the subcommittee model, should be communicated to the city manager so that it can be added to the staff report.
Councilmember Friend, you're absolutely right, and we should do that in the future.
Okay, thank you.
And I noticed that right away, so I forwarded this potential violation to the city attorney, and then we decided this will be placed on the agenda so that it's made available to the public. Then that hopefully mitigate the potential violation. But yeah, maybe in the future, if you send the subcommittee report to the city manager can forward to all the council members. Maybe that's more appropriate.
Yeah, that's a better process, I agree. I just want to make a quick comment. I mean, there is a lot of interest in having the 4th of July celebrations with fireworks or with some kind of celebration. And there's some great opportunities to use that both for economic development as well as bringing the community back together. And I think it's a great win-win if we can pull it off. And really thank staff for taking a look at that. Thank you, Rochelle, as well for looking at this. And thank you to the city manager for helping facilitate the process.
So do you need additional direction from us, or to clarify the subcommittee is not limited just to firework, but also potentially other activities?
I think what we were just trying to do is get to the fireworks portion and get that piece passed. And then I think if there are other activities, let's see what Parks and Rec would like to do.
So you don't need any direction from us?
I think our direction...
You mentioned you want direction from us to the staff to communicate with the COSD.
Yes.
And vocal.
Yes.
So you do want that?
Yes, I do want that.
Okay.
I think we should make it official.
Do we need a motion for that? Or
Clarification, I thought that was the charter for the subcommittee.
I thought that was charter, but I didn't.
But would you like staff to engage? Because that's a different direction from the original motion from the council.
We can directly engage if that's okay. I mean, do we have the authority to do that, city attorney?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Then we'll do that.
Don't need
we'll save you some staff time.
Okay.
All right. So
on public comment.
Yes, public comment. Yeah.
Yes, Mayor, we have we have two members of the public requesting to speak virtually, Ava Chow and Sanar. Welcome, Ava.
Hello, Honorable City Council Mayor and City Council members of Cupertino. My name is Ava Chow. I am a school board member for Cupertino Union School District, although today's comment I am speaking on my own behalf. This is news to me. With Hyde in consideration, one of the concerns I have, if people have been following our public school board meetings, is we are installing solar panels at all of our school sites. Hyde is one of them. And we will have brand new solar panels before this coming 2025 4th of July. So I would like the city to make that information known, and that is a concern because there's new solar panels going up. And look forward in hearing more and official communication coming from the city of Cupertino. Thank you.
Thank you, Ava. Next we have Sanar. Welcome, San.
Evening, Mayor Chow and council members. I want to sort of share, if this is not already known, that last year, December 2024, there was a drone malfunction in Orlando, Florida, resulting in severe injuries to a 7-year-old kid. And following that, there have been several cities that have canceled drone shows. Most notably, drone shows have been canceled at Orlando in the Universal studios there. The same thing with New York City, same thing with Dallas, same thing with Austin. So Councilmember Mohan may want to research the safety issues with drone shows and the issues leading to the cancellations by several cities. So that's something you might want to look at. I'm highly encouraged by the progress of the subcommittees and its openness to talk to all parties that might be potential sources. And so I hope this will move forward quickly. A decision will be made and we will support it on July 4th. And you will look at the decision to fund the Blackberry Farm celebrations independent of the fireworks so that they don't sort of rise and fall together, but hopefully you can actually enable both. These are the kinds of decisions that are a win-win for all parties. The community loves it. They love to see staff and council members at these events, and council gets credit for something that you can get to make happen. And if you can get the business community involved in partially offsetting the costs, that gives them visibility as well. So let's make these situations a win-win for all parties. Thank you.
Thank you, San. And we have one additional request from Community Hall, Peggy Griffin. Welcome, Peggy.
Good evening, Mayor Chow, Vice Mayor Moore, council members, and staff. Thank you. And thank you for looking at both the drone and the fireworks and letting us know what the issues are with drones. I wasn't aware. I also think that this is at a time when our democracy and democracy everywhere is challenged. Celebrating it here is very important. It also builds what do you call it? I can't remember the word now. A feeling of belonging, ownership, united, community. Anyway, thank you. And I like Sanar, hope that you have celebrations everywhere, in the morning, in the evening, and bring in the businesses and have them put up the flags and include them, and we'll spend our money there. Let's help everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Mayor, no additional requests to speak on this item?
Thank you. So could you address the question about solar panel?
Yeah, I think the district will have to consider solar panels, but I think, it's really about installation times, and I'll let the district answer that directly. But if you're worried about embers on solar panels, the temperature of an ember is much less than the melting point of the glass on a solar panel, but there needs to be protective measures if they're in Bimini. They could be in the middle of construction, and that could create some issues and difficulties, and so those areas would have to be protected.
So, but then if it's already installed, there are ways to put cover over it, right?
There are mitigation measures.
Yeah, I believe there are also people who are looking at the firework over artificial turf, and then there are ways to mitigate those potential.
There are ways to mitigate them, but they're not always perfect on the artificial turf, which is why those folks with artificial turf venues are not interested in participating. So.
Okay. Thank you. So then let's go to the next item. That's confirm the recommended language for 2 new council strategic goals and finalize.
Mayor, I'm sorry, was there any direction on that item?
I think we didn't need direction on the item. The subcommittee will just continue, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So, confirm and recommended 2 new city council strategic goals and finalize the 2-year city work program. So I believe we have staff presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members. Tina Kapoor, Deputy City Manager. I do have a very short presentation. We're pulling it up right now. And with me here is Astrid Robles, our Senior Management Analyst, who also supports the City Work Program and has helped me with all the lists and attachments. You also have the staff report and agenda packet printed out in front of you today, so thank you, Astrid. And apologies if I sound a little bit weird tonight. I just got up from a really bad cold and doing better than Astrid, who's completely lost her voice. So here we go. I definitely want to start
Thank you
by
both for being here under the weather. Yeah.
I want to start by thanking Council again for your continued support through this process and through the work program. And to staff and all departments for their work on this. It's been a journey for sure. And as you know, this work is the most important work that we do, and it's above and beyond the operational. So department heads have also continued to look at the proposed projects that have come through this process and added refined estimates as we move forward with this work. We have come a long way, but I do have a very brief presentation tonight. As you know, we held a workshop on March 3rd for council to identify your top priorities. Council also adopted a framework for the strategic vision and discussed revisiting existing goals. And you agreed to split one of our existing goals into two separate ones. All of this is in the workshop summary on attachment A in the agenda packet. And moving forward from the workshop, we're here tonight with two recommended actions as shown on your screen. The first one is to confirm the recommended language for two of the new City Council strategic goals of environmental sustainability and fiscal strategy. And the second recommended action is to finalize the fiscal year 2025 to 27 city work program. I will walk us through the second recommendation and how we arrived at the proposed list. But before we do that, here's the staff recommended language for the first recommended action for the two new goals. This is also on the city's website, and we will update them accordingly per council action tonight. This language is also in the staff report if you would like to look at it. So moving on to the second recommended action for tonight, which is to finalize the fiscal year 25-27 city work program. We have a proposed list that we're asking council to consider and finalize tonight, and here's how we put it together. So we took the council selected projects from March 3rd workshop. We then added the current ongoing city work program projects that we're asking council to consider as part of the upcoming city work program, and arrived at this proposed list. This is a consolidated list, and I'll elaborate in a second here. So at the very beginning, we had the council selected projects, and we're calling this attachment B. It's in your packet. This is the list of items that were selected by council as your top priorities at the workshop. And as you recall, we started with top 10 items from each of you. And then from there, using the council adopted ranking methodology, all of you ranked projects on that list at the workshop. Council then ranked the list, and it was staff took it back and triaged it into three categories: the green, white, and red, into highest rank to the lowest or no rank items. Green were the items that had the highest rank at the moment, and council agreed to accept all of them to move them forward for consideration. Council then ranked and selected 6 additional items from the black/white list, and the remaining were not selected, and the remaining on that black-white list were not selected, and it's attached as attachment C in the packet. And then there were the items that were ranked either very low or 0, and those were red, and council dropped them altogether. What you see on the screen, I just want to point out, is a screenshot of the council selected list. It's not the entire list. The entire list is in the packet again as attachment B. And you will see that this list includes, which council member had originally proposed an item and the total rankings resulting at the workshop. You'll also see that this list still has the green and the black. So staff, per council direction, has also suggested descriptions or titles for 7 items from the original list. This is only to slightly clarify the scope for the project if needed. And these 7 are included in the agenda packet as attachment D. For example, one of the items was split into 2 separate items that you'll notice, which is the EDC and the grant management position. Moving on is attachment E. So this provides council an update on all current city work program projects and staff recommendations for each of them. A few of these are similar to some of the proposed city work program items for the upcoming 2 years, and some of them staff has recommended that they're included in the upcoming city work program list. And then finally, from all of this, attachment F is the proposed list in your packet. This is a cleaned up, consolidated list. It does not include council member initials or any rankings, because this is council's priority list, and all projects on here our priorities and are in no particular order. This list also includes refined, excuse me, and slightly more specific resource estimates, as you'll notice. Of course, we had limited time between the workshop and when the agenda for this meeting was posted, so these are still estimates, and based on tonight's discussion and council direction, staff will continue to refine them and bring them forward to council with the budget. One thing I want to clarify, item 13 on attachment F should say no change. It currently is blank, and thank you, Councilmember Froon, for pointing that out. So I just wanted to let you guys know. So again, on this consolidated list, there's also a timeline column that you'll notice to indicate when a project on this list will begin or will be completed. All are estimates, but it's helpful to have that information. And if there are projects that, given what we know now, that may have the potential to go beyond the 2-year mark, given limited staff capacity or whatever have you, you will see that it's also indicated. So you have year 1, year 2, or beyond on this list. So for tonight's discussion, we recommend council focuses the discussion on this proposed list and finalize the work program for the next 2 years. The final list will be brought back to council for adoption with the budget. And with that, here are your recommended actions again for tonight. And with that ends my presentation, and we're here for questions. Thank you.
Okay. Since we have gone through this, maybe we go to public comment first and then come back to the council.
I did have one quick question. Yeah, just in follow up on line 13. It's currently denominated a small business revitalization ordinance, but only one of the things that's in the description really seems to be an ordinance, which is the streamlining of permits. And the others are sort of events and so forth. Is there alternative language that you would suggest based on that?
So
this is multiple things. It's not just one thing.
Correct. And there were other economic development related items that staff has taken a stab at proposing a language. Some of this language may be reflected in those items, and if not, then council can provide further clarification tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, we have one request to speak from Peggy Griffin in Community Hall. I see 2 hands raised requesting to speak virtually.
Okay.
Welcome, Peggy.
Good evening, Mayor Chow, Vice Mayor Moore, council members and staff. A couple things. On attachment F, number 25, active transportation plan. The Teen Commission, the Planning Commission, and the Bike Ped Commission all proposed this be updated. And yet, the only one that gets to review it is the Bike Ped. And when it comes to council, it's to approve it, not to review it. This document, it includes 3 different things, and when it is all put together, it's huge. And things that impact the residents get buried. And so I'm asking that these get broken up, and as each piece gets done, that there is public review, not just by the bike ped, but each piece, so that we know, you're forcing sidewalks in neighborhoods? Are what are you doing? People need to know. So have more review than these one, and then council approval. City Hall retrofit and renovation, it's at the bottom of the list and got no votes. It says amount 0, small amount of staff time. Does this mean you're not going to do it? I'm concerned. Will there be an RFP? Attachment F, number 11, Blackberry Farm versus impact fees, which are 8 and 9. Focus on things that will have the greatest impact on preserving our revenue instead of spending $500,000 figuring out that opening up Blackberry Farm pool won't work in the wintertime. The pool is small. It does not provide lap swimming. It's not enclosed for winter, probably not heated. Kids are in school. The lifeguards are in school. This usage will be low. That's why the previous owners didn't open it before. Focus on working with the local high schools and De Anza College for access to their pools that are open all year long. It's a better usage of our public tax dollars. Number 9, defensible impact fee nexus can be started in year 1 rather than starting in Blackberry Farm. Both are out of the city attorney's office, so swap them. My last concern is attachment F, number 7, heart of the city. It says, the description says, and relevant neighboring plans. That's like open-ended. Which plans? Who's going to be impacted? Which exact planning areas, and is that just a way to do whatever's desired? Item 8, update city's impact fees cost $50K instead of $1 million. Both are large staff time and both come out of community development. Swap the time so that the impact fees start first. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. And now we will move to those members of the public requesting to speak virtually. We have Tracy K. and San R. Welcome, Tracy.
Good evening, Cupertino City Council and staff. Thank you for your work on the CWP prioritization, and I really hope this plan can bring significant positive benefit to Cupertino. I have just 2 questions tonight. So first, I do want to echo Peggy's question. Can we confirm that even though the EOC and seismic retrofit is listed down at the bottom, number 20, that it will be immediately implemented as part of the CIP? And then second, as we've heard this evening, there is a rise in community concern that there should be better solutions to address the unhoused in Cupertino, the encampments and RV parking. So can we please elevate the priority for number 19, unhoused policies, to go higher up on the list, and also ensure that it involves specific policy creation or at least some more formalized process for addressing the unhoused encampments and RV parking? If the in-house policy is down at number 19, does that mean it's less likely to be completed, or that it will be completed much later? Or does it still get the same treatment as the other items? I think that's probably the biggest question that I have. And that ideally this policy, unhoused policy item, should not just be to continue the existing work plan item, which was stated as collaborate and fund jointly with the West Valley efforts to address regional needs and find workable support for the unhoused. So that was the existing work plan item, but also really to focus on the process going forward. Because right now when I go to the city website, I see a list of resources that people can go to, but and even in the recent policy inventory done by Moss Adams, which was great, I could see all the policies in one place. I didn't see anything addressing these issues. So if we can please make sure that this item gets elevated. I also see in the CWP that there's almost half of our items are really addressing more long-term economic development. So this would kind of help diversify the top 10 a little bit more if we were to elevate that to an item that is more focused on public health and welfare. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tracy. Next we have San R. Welcome, San.
Good evening, Mayor Chow and council members. I sent in my comments by written communication. Hopefully you've all had a chance to see that. I also noted that written communication had several residents that voiced their support for some of these items. I do want to reiterate some of them just for your, just to reassure and hopefully solicit your support for these. I believe that the Nexus fee study is a critical one. We just waived 77 million in fees to the RISE. We can't afford to keep doing that. When we waive fees to developers, those are fees that residents have to pay. And we have to pay it one way or the other, either a reduction in services or a decline in infrastructure, or it comes out of a structural budget deficit that is already in a bad situation. And so I urge you to approve the Nexus fee study. In fact, on all of these items, I would urge you to ask whether this in fact should be a CWP or it is an operational item. We're told that only 10% of staff time goes on CWP, and then there's still funding asked on these items. So what exactly is the other 90%, and can these be operational items? So please probe for if items can be moved off this list into operational agendas, because items like this perhaps become a state requirement. Maybe there's a state requirement. I understand AB 602 has some requirements that the Nexus fee study be updated every 8 years, and that the Nexus fee study be proportional. with the square footage of the proposed units, that it is transparent, but that it is also justified, failing which it can actually open us up to issues. And so I note that both East Palo Alto, Los Altos, Palo Alto, all three have recently, just in the last year, updated their nexus fee studies. So this may in fact not need to be a CWP if we can classify it as an operational item. So let's try and see where we can squeeze some of these items into that 90% of bandwidth that staff directs towards operational items. The second one I did want to support is the urban forest. This is another one that really is a win-win. I think it is assumed that the right things happen in terms of safe spacing of trees. I think there's been a few concerns raised about wildfires and so on. I fully trust that staff will do the right thing, and there are already the right things in the municipal code around appropriate spacing of trees and being placed in the street frontages, on the sidewalk frontages, in the right of way, and then being placed on street medians. And so I believe that all of those assurances are already in place today. I believe an urban forest really helps cool down and improve the climate around the city, improve our air conditions, reduce our pollution, and really is a win-win for all. It improves property valuations. As you've seen, a greener city is a more valued city. So I strongly urge all of you to be bipartisan on this. And please do not vote based on who else is recommending what. Because
Thank you, San. That is your time. Mayor, there are no additional requests to speak for this item.
Okay. So let's bring it to the council. We'll each have 5 minutes. You can use it for question or comment. Yeah. Vice Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for going through this process and trying to get it simplified for us. I wanted to see about perhaps removing some items and having a bit of a more back to basics type of work program. We have a ton of special projects that are still in the works, and we still have city work program items which are being continued. So I was trying to limit our new projects to about 10. So the ones that I proposed for removal, if you're looking at attachment F, since we all have the packet here, 7, 8, 11, and 12. Heart of the city, 7. 8, update the city impact fees and remove that one. And I liked the wording of 9. I had a little more descriptor on that one. 11, the CEQA review, which had the legal challenge associated potential issue with Blackberry Farm at this time. I'd rather have some more information about that. And I also had item 12. I was not sure about what the specifics were for this particular project. So I was looking at those 4 to remove. And then with regards to items 1 through 4 and 13, it's all kind of economic development, small business revitalization plan, and then a small business revitalization ordinance. I was wondering if there's a possibility that could be, since we have the Economic Development Committee, if that could be for their work program, and that they could come back with some recommendations from the new EDC to the City Council on those items. And there are 2 council members that will be assigned to the Economic Development Committee to help guide that process along. So that there's one item. It was mentioned by the public with regards to the unhoused policies, and I agree. It starts with continue this work program item, so it is going to be. I don't want to have it confused with the former unhoused work program. It's not that. It's the So I would cross off the first part of it where it says continue this work program item. It is not the $200,000 for unhoused work. Okay, good. I want to make sure that that was understood. Okay. So I'm going to save the rest of my time and see if anyone else has gone through the list to hopefully pair some of the items off.
Okay, anyone? Councilmember Mohan.
A question for the staff. This is not in order of any priority, right? These are just a list of 20 projects that you've listed based on our scoring.
Yeah, that's correct. There's no order of priority anymore in the consolidated list.
Okay, so when members of the public ask us to move this item or another item up, it doesn't mean anything. As long as it's on the top 20, it's there for
correct. This list collectively are the priorities for council. What we've done is added a timeline to kind of help define and help you understand on what we may be able to accomplish in year 1 or year 2 or what may go beyond. But other than that, there's no order of priority.
Okay, so so you're comfortable with managing resources and time for the top 20 plus the ongoing projects. Am I understanding that right?
At this time, these are, so the 20 or so are the ones that council selected, so we're bringing that forward. We're also bringing forward the ongoing items, from the current work program. In terms of comfortable, I think that depends a lot on staff capacity, which can change. We're obviously looking for council direction tonight to, consolidate, as Vice Mayor mentioned, if there are opportunities to further refine and focus this list and finalize, I think that would be helpful.
Okay, so if we left everything just as it is, staff is capable of going through the top 20 plus the ongoing projects which were approved 2 years ago.
I think to the best of our estimate, Councilmember Mohan, we're indicating what we may be accomplishing in year 1, year 2. There are some items that will go beyond 2 years, just given that there isn't a whole lot of staff capacity. So it's hard to say if we'll be able to accomplish this entire list. These still are a lot of items on the list.
Okay, I'll hold my questions for now. So thank you, Tina.
Okay, thank you. And who would like to go next?
Sure. Oh, go ahead. You're going, Council. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think a lot of the comments on Councilmember Moore's makes a lot of sense. I appreciate Councilmember Mohan's clarification. So these aren't a ranking of the top 20. I think it's just the 20 that we're going to look at. It sounds like there might still be some things that are on top of your list. If we can take some away, it might help you in that. If there's any interest on other council members here, I would get rid of 25. Which is a current ongoing project for the active transportation plan. And I would get rid of 23 if that's legally possible. I would like to check with the city attorney. If we're limited by AB 43 on the speed limit, that might be able to lessen your load a little bit, but I don't know if there's any support for that. So I'd like to ask the city attorney if we're obligated to be stuck on AB 43 with a speed limit lowering.
Councilmember, I'll have to look into that.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Then I will go next. First, a question regarding the grant analyst that's under economical development. So what grants we could be looking for economical development?
Great question, Mayor. So we actually did take that one out from another item and made it its own project, and you'll notice it's no longer an economic development item. This is going to be a citywide grants management effort, and this is a position add through the Admin Services Department.
Oh, so it's totally unrelated then to the original intent. Okay. Then let me share my screen. Oh, sorry. Okay. So I wrote up my. Here is a motion I'm attempting to make, so I will go through them and then make the motion. First, approve the proposed list on the in the attachment F with the following modifications. Part 1 of the motion is to consolidate number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 13 and retitle it as Economic Development for Retail and Small Business, and to start in year 1. And the description would be including, I'm consolidating the common description, streamlining permitting process for small business, retention and recruitment of retail and small business, explore options to support small business or startup, fill empty storefronts, and encourage entry of new forms of retail to promote revitalization. And these two parts include, I think, Councilmember Wang's proposal in his list. Explore more themed events like Restaurant Week and other festivals to bring vitality to Cupertino businesses, improve placemaking in the city and the city's revenue stream. And third, create a small business council, provide regulatory support. And then the second part of the motion is to revise the number 9, which actually is number 8 is a duplicate of that. So that means removing item 8. Remove and include number 8. Here, I would like to add the parkland impact fee because we have gotten requests to waive that also. And we need to start this in year 1 because the urgency to preserve the city's ability to collect our fees. So the title would now become Defensible Impact Fee Nexus Study for Traffic Impact Fee, Retail Impact Fee, BMR Impact Fee, plus Parkland Impact Fee. I'm not sure of the description because my original description reads more like a justification. And here is a revised description based on staff's recommendation. Conduct nexus study to review a range of impact fees such as traffic impact, retail, BMR, parkland impact fees, and other means of offsetting converging of commercial and land uses to residential to ensure impact fees are defensible against legal challenges. So I have added this part. Okay, and then the third portion is number 14 on the proposed list, but I would like to add the barn in the McLennan Ranch Park and the house at the entrance of Blackberry Farm. That's, I think, currently used by Parks and Rec. I would like to explore other uses for that building. So that's a revised description of that item. And next, part 4 of the motion is permitting streamlining. So this is the same title as number 5, but revised description to include the Councilmember Wang's more specific suggestion in terms of accountability. So the revised description, the first part is the same as before, but I have added the second part. But just to consider, improve turnaround time, set a service level, what is SLA? Service level agreement for staff and outsourced reviewers and customer service KPIs, templates to reduce back and forth, and internal staff expertise to reduce consulting expenses. I made it to consider so it's softer, that the staff This is the basis of the permit streamlining. And part 5 is true. This one, it's to replace number 18 on the public engagement with number 3 that was in the not selected list, but with a modification. Because I think the item 18 was specifically about general plan amendment and rezoning, which likely won't happen in the next 2 years or more. But then what we are seeing right now is a lot of SB 330 application and streamline the projects that do not have sufficient notification. So I think we need to improve that process as soon as possible. And these are things that these 2 items are things people have requested in the past 2 years. And I have added the third one in terms of SB 330 preliminary application. And part 6 of what I would consider is unhoused policies. I think this is just restating Councilmember Moore's to strike the first sentence. And then I would like to also remove number 7, heart of the city specific plan. It's $1 million too large, and we are very short-staffed in planning right now. And also number 11, Blackberry Farm Pool. I think there is better solution for that. And then, so there are things I'd like to add, but I will consider that later. So these are what I hope to propose as a motion. If I could have a second, and I would like to hear other people's thoughts. Yeah.
Excuse me, we haven't had public comment at this moment? And there, you just moved into...
I think
I've also not yet had the opportunity to comment.
Oh, thank you, yes.
Oh, we had public comment first.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It just seems soon to be proposing a motion, forgive me.
Oh, okay. Okay, so...
Moore, second.
Thank you. Councilmember Fruin.
So many of these I'm okay with, but I would just remind you, during your State of the City address, you talked about the number of retail spaces that are being consumed by townhouse projects. And unless we do something about how the heart of the city is zoned and certain of the planning areas, specifically the North De Anza conceptual plan, unless we do something about that, they will continue to be consumed by townhouses. That entire area is designated a planned development area through MTC ABAG. It's eligible for all sorts of grants. So I'm perfectly happy with us not proceeding with it if we can't get an outside funding source for it. But unless you want to see the heart of the city turn into a bunch of townhomes, then I really don't know what we're doing here. I think that's rather important, and you've gotten a lot of comment from it, from members of the public with very different political affiliations on this exact topic. So I would suggest that we keep that one.
Thank you. And any other comment? Councilmember Mohan.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. I just I'm having a difficult time absorbing all the changes
should I email?
you
I can
have
email.
made.
I can email
that
this
would be
to
good.
the city clerk.
Yeah, that would be good. Because the fact is, a few weeks ago we did spend 4 hours going over these items, and this was the consensus that we had reached. So it's sounding to me, unless I'm reading it completely wrong, that we are revisiting this entire project. And I have concerns about that because we did spend time. We did go back and forth. We figured out what the priorities were, and now it sounds like there are other priorities, things that we thought were priorities are not priorities anymore, and vice versa. So I'm a little confused about this whole process. I agree with you that some things can be consolidated, but I haven't had the chance to think about it, or we haven't had, as a council, had time to deliberate on the changes that you are proposing. So I don't know how to handle this, because we all did come up with this list of 20 projects, and while there's no problem with consolidating one or two, just to eliminate some things doesn't make sense. We all agreed to these.
Okay, thank you. And Vice Mayor Moore?
So I want to thank you, Mayor, for making a very, very clear motion, and I agree with the changes that you have added, and even to the changes for my request to move the EDC items 1 through 4 and 13. That I think that what you're suggesting there is it's a good idea. So I've kept up with what you've got here, and I
have
like
emailed this motion to the city clerk. Could you please email to the council so they have reference? They can reference them. So I'd like to then respond to Councilmember Mohan and the Fruin. So I do think that we need to address the issue of retail being replaced by town hall. But the heart of the city update, the wholesale update, is too broad, and I think we could consider more specific updates. I think we need to talk about any specific updates because we already have the 75% retail frontage requirement, but the state density law and all these other state law allow and developers to totally ignore anything, even objective standards we create. So I don't think an update of that makes sense, but I do want us to look at other ways to retain retail. And also North De Anza plan is not a part of the heart of the city. Yeah, so I would like a better scope, maybe once we can have more specific things that can achieve what we want. I'm concerned about the very general scope of heart of the city. And then regarding Councilmember Mohan, I think the exercise on March 3rd was a ranking exercise. All of us thought about things, we ranked it. It wasn't a consensus, it was just a result of ranking. So I would have communicated this to staff again and again. This wasn't a proposed list, we just approved the ranking. And then based on the ranking, we then each think about what makes sense, especially there are a lot of duplications. And there were things that were had separate items, but then if you combine them, they actually could get into a higher ranking, but they were not combined. So, yeah. And then also I feel during the council workshop, we didn't really were given time to talk about and advocate for our items. It was like, oh, rank. And so, Councilmember Wong, you haven't spoken, and then Councilmember Fruin.
Councilmember Fruin, go ahead.
So I'm happy to rescope item 7. That's not really the issue here. And if you want to direct staff to re-examine its scope, that's fine. If it's a focus on how we retain retail in the space, create opportunities for placemaking, I think that's and in particular to prevent it from simply becoming a bunch of townhomes, that's fine. There's a fairly simple solution to that, which is what I described when we had the priority setting session here, which is that right now, anywhere in the heart of the city, you have a very favorable density for residential purposes. Yeah. And if you were to modestly increase that even, it would no longer be viable for townhomes if you make that the minimum density. So you would get much, much better use out of that space.
So it's already 10:16. So I would suggest that we vote on this motion first, and then we can, if we would like, we can continue to revise
Through the
or
Mayor,
add
if I
new
may,
item.
we're just kind of looking at the list for the first time. Would it be okay if we take some time to digest some of the proposed language? It may have to do with the allocated funding and staffing.
So come back in the next.
If we may, I mean, it's different than what Vice Mayor and Councilmember Wong were proposing based on the list that we provided. I'm just trying to do a very fast comparison, and then there are a lot of new description, a lot of consolidation, a lot of new things. I want to make sure that council is making an educated decision with the adequate.
But I think it probably is best to get a council vote first before we spend staff time on this, right? So let's vote on this proposed motion first, and then we can direct staff to bring back potential revision or a rescoping of some of the items. This is not final. Yeah. Okay. Can we vote?
Can I just clarify the motion, if I may? Is it the motion that that has the, I don't know how many parts, however many parts there are here on the screen?
8 parts. That's in the. I think I have emailed to the city clerk. Let me see. 7, 8.
Is
The
that
8 parts.
motion part
Yeah.
1?
8 parts.
8, that's what I'm saying, 8
yeah.
parts, very good.
Mm-hmm.
So the motion is pertaining to those 8 parts?
8 parts, yeah.
Thank you.
Did you make the motion?
It's already made and seconded, so we can vote now.
Okay. Call a question.
Okay.
Oh, I can't see it.
Okay. I think the staff would bring this back and then we'll
Councilmember,
revisit
Mayor,
it again, right?
Mayor, Councilmember Mohan has yet to
sorry.
vote.
Oh, vote by lights? Are
Yes,
we there?
please. Yes, please.
Sorry.
The motion carries with Mohan and Fruin voting no.
Okay. When this come back, I actually hope to have another, I think, this is, I think, 9 and 10. That I hope to add these 2 items that was from my original top 10 list that was dropped. One is really to attract revenue generating mid-sized company so we can diversify our tax base, because small and business and startups doesn't generate company yet. And then also consider reducing the scope of Memorial Park plan. So I hope to still add these 2 items to the list, since we have consolidated and removed the list. Maybe the staff can come back next time to consider, and maybe a council member can propose a rescope the heart of the city. Okay. And regarding the senior services
Mayor?
item, okay.
So I'm not exactly sure what you're asking me to do. You're saying that you're asking me to rescope the heart of the city proposed item?
Yeah.
What mechanism do I follow to put that on the list or have staff examine it?
For example, I do have 2 other items that I hope to add still. So if you would like to rescope that, and then you can propose and revise the heart of the city in the next time this comes to the council agenda, I believe.
Through the mayor, Madam City Manager, is that workable? What would you suggest?
I have a brand new list today, so I don't
Yeah.
know if I can comment on this. I'm sorry. I mean, through the mayor, this is entirely different than what was talked about 2 weeks ago. And we spent a lot of time.
2 weeks ago was just an initial ranking. It was never
And staff went through a lot of
proposals.
time and effort to come back with the estimate on staffing and estimate, and also to refine the list and asking council to come back with the consolidated list. And what I'm getting today, and with all due respect, it's a brand new list. So we need some time to digest, and we can certainly come back. I'm sorry, I'm just not at liberty to provide additional explanation.
Okay. I don't think there is a lot of change. For example, part 1 is just consolidation of existing items. Part 2 is just adding one extra Parkland impact fee. And part 3 is just adding 2 sites. Part 5 is the same item, just adding some details. I'm not making much change. This part 5 is more change because I thought it's more urgent now for the notification of proposed projects. And part 6 is very little change. So the main change is removing items. So I don't understand what big change was there. But I do want to bring up these potential new items I hope to be considered. So if the staff can provide comment on how new items could still be considered, that will be helpful.
Pardon, through the mayor?
Council member, Vice Mayor Moore and Council Member Mohan.
Well, you could potentially do that through the future agenda items, and it seems like we might have perhaps completed item 10, and that we would be moving on to the city manager report.
May I just ask if you wanted to vote on item 1, which was confirming the recommended language for the 2 new city council strategic goals?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I think my motion is, the proposed, I didn't say the staff recommendation. Okay.
Mayor, can I just ask a clarifying question real quick? So are you proposing adding items to the list at another conversation about the work program? Only because we still do need to further estimates, as Pamela mentioned. It's a slightly tweaked list for us to consider, and we hope to bring this forward with the budget process. And the more we tweak it further and add items, it kind of puts us in a difficult position to meet those timelines.
Yeah, so if we would still like to add items, what do you propose?
My recommendation would be to not add items or change the list at this point, but if that's the entire council's direction, then that's something for us to consider on how we may do that and still meet the deadlines and timelines for the budget.
Okay. So maybe let's first confirm the 2 new strategic goal, which replaced one of the existing goal. Maybe can we have a motion on that?
So moved, Moore.
Okay, I'll second.
But I'm unclear on the motion, Mayor.
The motion is to confirm the strategic goal. The recommended confirm the recommended language for the 2 new council strategic goals: environmental sustainability and fiscal strategy. The number 1 of the recommended action.
Thank you.
So
we should vote on that.
We should vote on that motion. Okay. So, what does the council members think about the other items to add? Oh, sorry.
The motion carries with unanimously with Councilmember Wong absent.
Yeah.
And if I may suggest a couple of options for council to consider. So one would be, as you know, we're going to do a midpoint check-in at 1 year mark, right? And we can come back, talk about staff capacity at the time, and you can tweak the work program list at that time. The other option is, to finalize the list tonight. But I would, again, staff recommendation is to not bring this back again to tweak it, because we do need to do quite a bit of work on the back end to then refine estimates and bring it through the budget process, which is really coming up.
Okay. So, that's then close this side on Councilmember Mohan.
I had one quick comment. The Blackberry Farms pool and picnic area was just sort of summarily removed, and I want to add it back. So what would be the process to add that back? It wasn't an item that was added lightly. There was some, and we haven't really talked about it or even the reasons for removing it. So in the next go round, will I get an opportunity to add it back, since there are other things that you are adding back, Mayor?
I think the staff doesn't want us to add new items, so I was deciding wait for the mid-year check.
That's true, but this was on the list. The Blackberry Farms was on the list, on the original
I think
top
we have
20.
a majority who wants to remove that. And would you like to? I know you want to.
And I wanted that for a reason. This is,
would you like to state the reason?
I would like to state the reason.
Okay.
This was a potential this was a settlement brought about 15 years ago, maybe more than that, and it's there's something not fair about a public asset not being used by the public, or not being allowed to be used by the public. I, as a resident and a taxpayer, want to use public parks, the city parks. I want to use the pool if I so choose. I want to use the picnic area if I so choose. And just summarily saying no. There was a settlement 20 years ago for perpetuity, for till the end of the world. Is that how this is going to stay on? I mean, this is something we should revisit because it impacts the public.
Okay. My understanding is this area is Blackberry Farm is open to the public year-round.
No, it
but
isn't.
the pool, by operating the pool, it's actually costing the city a lot of dollars just opening for 100 days.
So we don't know that, Mayor. No one's done any analysis. These are just hypothetical.
There is I think that's a fact from our budget. And the previous operator, my understanding is, it was a for-profit operator. They opened it for 100 days because opening more does not bring in more revenue.
Okay.
Even when they were operating at a revenue, and now city is operating it at a loss. I think to provide more access, the better way I envision is to open the Stevens Creek entrance. So I think as part of the property, this is just what I envision personally. As part of the property study, likely we will turn the Blatch House into a potential parking area, and then maybe the Stevens Creek access will be an easier access for the area. Then you would not have the CEQA issue if you have other access area. But then the operating cost is still an issue we should look at the time.
Okay, I hear you, Mayor, but this was not about operating costs. This was about making a public park accessible to the public, which pays in various ways for public assets. Yeah. So it's a settlement. We can look into it. There's a CEQA review involved in it, and I think we should proceed because it's not fair. As a resident, I am.
Okay. I think I got your point.
Okay.
And so, Council Vice Mayor Moore, you would like, I think we should move on to the next item. That's City Manager Report and future agenda.
It's now 10:30, so we should vote to extend the meeting if need be.
Okay. I make the motion to extend the meeting.
And also, I think our rules say that after 10:30, if you want to start something new, you need to vote on that as well. So it would be extend the meeting and start a new item.
Mayor, I just want to remind you that we extended oral communications to the end of the meeting.
Oh, right. That's true. So we will extend the meeting to have city manager's report and continue the oral communication and future agenda items. That's my motion.
Excuse me, what are we doing with item 10? Are we continuing?
No, completely.
Item 10 is closed. We already voted on it. So you can bring new item at a mid-year check.
Through the mayor?
Yeah.
Okay, so we will be extending the meeting for the city manager report, the continued oral communications, and future agenda items and adjournment?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah.
A second, more?
Okay, so let's vote.
The motion carries unanimously with Wong absent.
Okay, city manager report.
I don't have a report for tonight.
Okay, thank you. And anyone would like to still make a public comment on non-agenda items?
Yes, Mayor, I have, one person has left. I have Kelly, Build the Future. I believe she has left already. Durja Archaria. Louise Sidati, Louise Fischler, and Jean Bedord. Welcome, Louise.
Hello. I'm one of the very few people that are awake, alert, and bushy-tailed at 11 o'clock at night. I have been a Cupertino resident for 38 years and will speak on 3 topics. First, on procedure, I am very shocked.
That's on the agenda, right?
No.
The council procedures?
No. On procedure, I am very shocked. Can you give me back my seconds? I am very shocked that people online can speak before people who took the time to come in person to speak. In the past, the time was shortened to 1 or 2 minutes to enable all the in-person as well as many of the online people to speak at the beginning of the meeting as possible. Allowing online residents to speak before in-person residents gives the appearance that favored online speakers were allowed to speak before people who came in person.
I have no idea.
Many of the in-person residents had to leave without ever having a chance to speak. It feels extremely disrespectful to the residents who came in person and opaque bias to allow longtime BC supporters like San R and Tessa to speak fully 3 minutes online and not allowing the in-person speakers to have their time first, as is our historical pattern. Many in-person subsequently had to leave as they could not wait until 11 o'clock when oral communications for in-person residents was finally allowed to express their opinions. And Councilmember Ray Wang left at 10:22 and will not hear our comments. It is also very disturbing tonight when a council member is not given the courtesy by the mayor to speak a sentence or two to illuminate a point brought up by the public. His speaking immediately after the resident would have provided much clarity to the concerns of the resident. All council members should be given the same simple courtesy and respect by the mayor as is done for BC residents and BC council members. Mayor Liang needs to follow procedure herself, like keeping to the 5-minute speech per council member limit. Second, the full wall removal that closes off the neighborhood near Valco was discussed among oral communication by a group of residents. I would like the wall at least partially open for bike and ped access. Not only will this allow the residents to get to schools in Porter Park without driving, but it will also allow easy access to the current residents in that neighborhood to the Tamian, Innu, and reduce their school traffic compared to having those students get driven to school every day. The residents will be teachers and should not be feared as neighbors. One proposal is to have the students walk along the Tamian Innu and then go on to Blaney at the bottom of the overpass bridge. This is much less safe. And not only is Blaney 30 miles an hour, and 5 miles per hour matters significantly for fatalities, but the children should be going on to Blaney, and it would not be, we need to have an opening in the wall for bike and ped access. The fire department, however, needs to have a full access road here to quickly cross east and west in case of fire in the area. I'm asking for increased fire
Louise.
prevention.
That is your time.
As we are now a high-risk area.
Next, we have Louise Fischler, followed by Jean Bedord. Okay, Jean? I don't see Louise Sadati here.
I think Louise Fischler, I think she changed to Zoom. She was here at 6:45, and she was in person sitting next to me. And it is now, how many hours later, when you're finally getting to
Jean, would you like me to
consent?
start your timer? Is this
Yes,
part of your
please.
oral communications? Okay. Thank you.
Hello. At this late hour, let me address the council. I am appalled by the way this meeting was conducted. First of all of you notice how empty it is. It is disrespectful to the public who made a special effort to be here at 6:45. Now, you could easily have reduced the time from 3 minutes to 2 minutes, a minute and a half, to fit all of them, everyone who is in this chamber, into the time period. You could also have extended it. That has been done in the past. So I urge you to change your behavior, to recognize, to engage the public. You know, many of these people have not spoken here before, and you've disrespected them. Secondly, I'm appalled at this total rewriting of the city work plan. It was almost impossible for me to read what was up there on the screen. Arial 11 points type, not provided in advance to the public, along with the fireworks article with agenda item, not provided in advance. This is very poor conduct of the meeting. I realize that there was a lot to cover tonight, but better time management and respect for the public is important. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. And I did misstate Louise Fischler's name. But I don't see Louise Fischler as here. So
She was here.
and yes, I don't. She is not included with those members of the public that are online. So, Mayor,
Okay.
there are no additional requests to speak on
Thank
this
you.
item.
I do want to provide some brief response. I have asked all council members to hold questions and comments until the end of it, at the very beginning of the public comment. And that hasn't been the practice that I have followed all throughout last year. I have always held my comments until the very end, so that we have a complete process. And so Council Member Fruin, I was simply asking him to follow the rule I mentioned earlier. And I have shortened speaker time before, but then people complained about shortened time. Therefore, this time I choose not to shorten it. And then people complain. And when I decided whether we should allow the 3 online speakers to speak, I did consult with the council to see if there is any objection. and there was no objection, so I allowed that because I wasn't sure. But for the school board meetings, they do interleave between in-person and remote. And I do agree that there should be a way to allow me to provide my motion to the public and the other council members ahead of time. And there is currently no such process. And that has been an issue that actually I will be proposing a potential council memo process to allow such council motion to be made available ahead of time for the public and other council member to consider. I hope I'm not responding too much. So next is the future agenda item. Do you have? So future agenda item, I initially wish to mention that I have proposed to consider a study session on policy for CIP approval process when the CIP list that will be on the council agenda on the 18th. So just for everyone's information. Okay. And now the meeting is adjourned.